Coaching staff, you just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
So I got up early this morning, and I listened to a lot of Robbie and Rex Road.
Fun.
Oh, I tell you, you talk about the greatest experience I've ever had. But I've turned like the 8 o'clock hour on Wednesdays into like a cardio hour for me, where like, you know, I'm either riding a bike at home and I'm watching them on YouTube with Paul, or I'm walking or running in the neighborhood and I'm listening to them with Paul. And I got to say, them with Paul is becoming, you know, must listen to radio for me, which is saying something. Not that there's, you know, everything else on our station is great as well, but, you know, them and Paul, you know, and them going after the people is probably one of my favorite things. But I woke up this morning, I was listening to Robbie and Rex Road, and Robbie brought up the fact that I guess it was bookies.com. I have no idea what bookies.com is or isn't. I obviously, like many of you, can probably make an assumption. Says that Ryan Tannehill is the most likely quarterback to be benched in the National Football League. Apparently, Desmond Ridder is number 2. And I listened to the show, and I listened to the text line and what people had to say, and I know what people have said into this text line. And so I think we should just have this discussion once and for all. Like, this should be the only time that we have to talk about this for the rest of the season. But I'm done litigating whether or not Ryan Tannehill is going to be the Titans quarterback. You may not like Ryan Tannehill. You may be like the majority of America and think that there are better quarterbacks out there in the NFL than Ryan Tannehill. You may be like a lot of people here that don't want Ryan Tannehill to be the quarterback. You may be like probably everybody except for Ryan himself, who doesn't think that Tannehill is capable of winning a Super Bowl. You may be one of those people. But that doesn't change reality. And it's not like it's March or February or even June or even before the start of the season. You're in the middle of the year. You're a quarter of the way in. You're tied for first place in your division. You're not trading your starting quarterback. You're not benching your starting quarterback. And you're not releasing your $27 million quarterback, who, if you did, you'd still have to pay. So regardless of how you feel about Tannehill, and I understand that, you know, the feelings about Tannehill lie on a very wide spectrum. But the argument of whether or not he should be the quarterback or he's going to be the quarterback, that's over. Ryan Tannehill is the Titans' starting quarterback. Now, if you want to talk about next season, that is a totally different discussion. I don't even think the Titans know who their starting quarterback next season is going to be. You know, Tannehill could get them to the AFC Championship game again, but if they feel like they've seen enough from Will Levis, they may just decide to go with him next year anyways. But that's a different discussion. What's going to happen this year is that Ryan Tannehill is your quarterback, period. And the reason that I guess I'm bothered by this discussion, and look, bookies.com, I don't know who is in line for a benching or who's not in line for a benching, or I haven't, you know, watched all the other teams play or anything like that. Ryan Tannehill's played great this year. Like, have y'all not watched the football games themselves? Ryan Tannehill is the best guy for the job. He's doing a really good job this year. And you can win with him. Now, there are limitations on how much you can win with him, But I think there are limitations on how much you can win with a lot of these quarterbacks in the league. I don't want to say all, because I don't think there are limitations on how much you can win with Patrick Mahomes, or limitations that when Joe Burrow is healthy, how much you can win with him. But I think there's a lot of limitations around the NFL on how much you can win with some of these quarterbacks. Like, can you win a Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence? What about Dak Prescott? Can you win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson as your starting quarterback? What about Derek Carr? Sam Howell? Now, for most of those guys, we don't know the answer yet. We don't know for sure that you can't win the Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. I don't think you can win the Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. That's just me. I don't think he's good enough. Tannehill's been in the league long enough, and he's been on different teams long enough, and he's been on good enough teams long enough, and he's played enough playoff games that it does feel pretty certain that you can't win the Super Bowl with him. Even if all the conditions are right, even if the defense is playing well, even if you get a good draw in the playoffs, even if I still think it would be a long shot. But that doesn't change where the Titans sit right now. Right now, the Titans are an average team. They're 2-2. They won one game real close. They lost another one by a point. They got blown out 27-3, and they did some blowing out at 27-3. Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback of the Titans. That is not changing. And it is obvious when it comes to the Tannehill spectrum, where on one end there's, he's a bum, they should play Willis over him. And the other side being, Tannehill is as good as Joe Montana, which I don't hear very often, but, I'm sure there are some bobos out there that think that way. And everybody falls somewhere on that spectrum. The Titans are on the spectrum, and you know that because they've drafted quarterbacks in each of the last 2 years. If the Titans wanted to keep Ryan Tannehill long-term, they would have worked out a new contract with him. If the Titans thought there was a really good chance Tannehill was going to be on the team next year, they would have reworked his contract. But they didn't. Ran Carthon took the job. Are you committed to Tannehill? Whoa, now. Asking me those questions off the jump. But again, those are off-season discussions. Here we are in October. You've got the chance to have a good season. Right? Like we saw that on Sunday. On Sunday, we learned that you have the pieces that when it gets put together, you've got a shot to win a lot of football games in this league. And I know Cincinnati's all kinds of screwed up. But you don't win 27-3 on accident. Cleveland didn't win 27-3 on accident 2 weeks ago. They've got the chance to have a pretty decent team this year. And then I think the other thing that gets ignored in this, and I'm sure the people at bookies.com aren't focused in on this like we are, but I think Tannehill is playing some great football this year. I thought Tannehill was electric in the Chargers game. Throwing the ball down the field, hit the 2 deep shots to Burks, hit the 1 to Moore. I thought he was incredibly efficient, had that great throw on the sideline to DeAndre Hopkins to set up the game-winning field goal in overtime. He threw for 240-something yards, which, again, with Tannehill, that's the goal. The Titans have been successful over the long haul for the last 5 years with Tannehill as the quarterback, and it has been from him throwing for 250 yards. It has not been with him throwing for 450 yards. Last week, Tannehill, more of the same. And I think the encouraging part about Tannehill on Sunday against the Bengals was I don't think Tannehill had his A game. I think against the Chargers, that was his A game. But he had a bad throw to Chris Moore on the sidelines where he had him open and he missed him. He had a stupid sidearm, tried to be Kurt Warner throw on a screen pass to Tajay Spears, which for Spears' sake, it's probably good that he didn't catch it. So he didn't even play his best ball game. And he was pretty doggone good. And it's amazing what happens with Tannehill when they block for Tannehill, when they catch the ball from Tannehill, when they dial up schemes to allow him to stand in the pocket, when they get open down the field. It's amazing how good Ryan Tannehill can look sometimes. So even if you are somebody that thinks the Titans should do better at quarterback or should strive to do better at quarterback to get a guy in here who can be the guy that can take you to the Super Bowl and can win it, and you want that guy and you'll do whatever it takes for that guy, well, guess what? So are they. They tried to move up to number 3 to draft C.J. Stroud. They thought that was the guy. They tried, and they happened to tell everybody while they did that. So they weren't able to do it. So Tannehill is where they're going. And this idea that I feel like every day we have to litigate whether or not Tannehill should be the starting quarterback of the Titans is crazy talk. And it would be a much easier discussion to have if Tannehill wasn't playing great. And see, what bothers me about the 2 throws that he missed in the Saints game is the narrative that has come out that, oh, well, everybody was good in the Saints game except for Tannehill, which is not true. Burks dropped a pass. Tim Kelly kept Derrick Henry on the sideline. I mean, you can say whatever you want. If Christian Fulton lets Rashid Shaheed go right past him, at the end of the game. Azeez Al-Shaair doesn't make a tackle. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you lost that Saints game. You as a team didn't play well. But I'm convinced that of Tannehill's only poor performance this year, that was in large part because he got hit early behind an offensive line that he'd never really played behind, and because he was rusty because they never played him in the preseason. So ever since then, great against the Chargers. I thought he was good against the Browns. Not the, well, great against the Browns. I mean, he's got the 3rd down throw to Okonkwo that he drops. He's got the 2 passes to Burks that he drops. The balls on the sideline to DeAndre were perfect. The pass on the sideline on 4th down to Chris Moore, in which Moore made an excellent catch. I think Tannehill's been good. And not only that, I mean, we've seen, because there was some talk that, hey, he's 35 years old. And so a 35-year-old Tannehill, what's that going to look like? Well, against the Chargers, they ran the option, and he scored a touchdown. And I don't know if you've seen some of these balls he's throwing outside the numbers. I heard Adam in Portland call Robbie and Retro this morning. I love Adam. But I heard Adam, call Robbie and Joe and talk about how he thinks he's looking at Mariota out there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Tannehill hit 4 passes outside the numbers off the top of my head on Sunday. He's doing a great job. I mean, this is what I mean when I tell you that Ryan Tannehill is a symptom and he is not a cause. His performance has always been a symptom. You've got Arthur Smith, good play caller. A.J. Brown, great wide receiver. Derrick Henry running the ball, an offensive line that can block. Tannehill's great. You put in a bad offensive coordinator, Tannehill's not as good. You give him a bad offensive line, Tannehill's not as good, now he's hurt. You give him receivers that can't catch and can't stay healthy, and Tannehill's not as good. But last week, they blocked well. They called a great game in terms of, hey, if we're going to throw the ball outside the numbers, if we're going to take a deep shot, we're going to leave a bunch of guys in there to protect. If not, the ball is coming out fast. We're going to run plays that look and run sets like run plays that'll get the Bengals thinking they're going to run it, and then we're going to throw it off the play action. And everybody caught it. Wiley caught it. Spears caught it. Chig caught it. NWI caught it. Moore caught it. Although I do think that ball on the sideline still was questionable. And DeAndre caught it. And you win 27-3. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I'm done litigating whether or not Ryan Tannehill is going to be this team's starting quarterback or whether or not Ryan Tannehill should be this team's starting quarterback, because in both cases the answer is yes. Ryan Tannehill is the team's quarterback. He is going to continue to be the team's quarterback, and he deserves to be the team's quarterback because he's the best guy for the job, and he's doing a good job so far this year. So that's how we're starting today. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. And I think there's one thing on top of this that D. Mace said that I think is coming not just from the heart, but from his experience, that I think we all need to realize and we all need to recognize. And this will help Tannehill continue to have the good performances that he's had so far this year. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll be giving away Preds season opener tickets later today, so be listening for that here on the program. And tonight, tune into 93.3 Classic Hits for MTSU football. The Blue Raiders will kick off at 7 o'clock at home against Jacksonville State. Pregame starts at 5:30, and coverage is also available on the 93.3 Classic app and at 933classichits.com.
The Titans are 2-2 after 1 month of the season.
6 minutes, 21 seconds, 3 touchdowns. When Jeff Simmons came in the game, I was fooled.
What can they expect from the Colts this week?
Do our job and we get going. And I think a lot of that is attributed to what you do in practice.
About a 6.5 minute stretch there where the Titans looked as good as they've looked in a while.
Keep it locked to Nashville's best Titans talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The holidays are a time of celebration and Thanksgiving. It's a time to host friends and family in your home to enjoy good food and good times. The last thing you need is an unexpected issue. If you're planning a gathering this season, take a few minutes to bring out the home experts from Lee Company. For heating, plumbing, electrical, and all your home improvement needs, Lee Company has you covered. Visit LeeCompany.com today and schedule your first appointment online. Lee Company, all you need.
The Nashville Oktoberfest is quickly approaching, and now's the time to get your dirndls, lederhosen, and party steins ready. From local breweries to live music and festival artisans, you can't go wrong celebrating this free family fun Germantown tradition. The Nashville Oktoberfest 2023, Thursday, October 5th through the 8th at Bicentennial Mall in Germantown. Prepare yourself for 4 days of brats, beer, live music, and competitions. VIP experience reservations are still available at thenashvilleoktoberfest.com. Prost, y'all!
Actor Portrayal, based on a real patient experience.
I'm Mike. I'm a husband, proud father of 2, work my butt off 6 days a week, some nights too. When my family or my company needs me to make it happen, I make it happen. But a few months ago, I started having trouble making it happen, in the bedroom. I tried some pills online, but they didn't work. Honestly, I thought about throwing in the towel on my sex life, but I'm not that old. I still want to enjoy intimacy with my wife. Like that poet said, I don't want to just go gently into that good night. So I went to the Tennessee Men's Clinic in Franklin. Got some lab work done, was prescribed some meds, and wow, it made it happen. I can't say enough about them. Their providers took care of me, followed up, and made sure I had a treatment plan that actually works. It's awesome. If I were you, and you're like me, I'd give them a call today, 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. If you're like most guys, they'll make it happen for you too.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
This week's Nashville's best deal is 312 Pizza Company. Serving the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. It's also a great spot to grab a beer and watch your favorite team on the big screen. 312 Pizza Company, 371 Monroe Street in Germantown. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals and get half off a $30 gift card. It's 312 Pizza Company, while supplies last.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Yeah, I think our blocking as a whole, took a step forward. You look at what the tight ends did, what the offensive line did. You had receivers finishing down the field. It was more of the way we want to play as far as physical finish. Just being a team that's going to play until the whistle and finishing those blocks down the field, trying to keep the ball carrier clean all the way down the field. You look at this team, they were playing a team that's going to try to hunt the ball. You see them punching at the ball, raking at the ball, so it's going to be crucial that we can keep our guys off of the ball carrier and finish those blocks.
Coach Tannehill breaking down the game against Indianapolis, but you heard right there, he said, hey, the blocking took a huge step forward. We took a huge step forward as an offense. And I keep thinking back to something Mike Vrabel said after the Cincinnati loss, which, by the way, is completely and totally still Tannehill's fault. The Cincinnati playoff loss, what could have been that year, that is Ryan Tannehill's fault. Now, I certainly think Todd Downing is a big part of this. I thought Downing was going to get fired after that game, after Tannehill played so poorly, because what the Titans, they were kind of in a bind of what it would take to get an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson or something like that. And remember, Russell Wilson was good at the time, or we thought he was good at the time. So it would have been hard to fire the quarterback. So I thought that Todd Downing was going to be used as the sacrificial lamb for the step back that the 2021 offense took. And Vrabel, because of his stubbornness sometimes, decided not to do it. But Vrabel said after the season, we have to be great around Tannehill. And everybody ran with that. Have to be great around Tannehill. Have to be great around Tannehill. Have to be great around Tannehill. Then Vrabel tried to clarify that at the Combine by saying, well, what I meant was we have to play great around him. Like we have to block with good technique around him, and we have to finish the catch around him, and we have to run with, violence and all those things Vrabel coaches up. And I took the cheese on that. I think everybody else kind of, one ear out the other. They didn't listen to that, but I bought that. I was like, Vrabel's talking about coaching around Tannehill. The things they can control, not necessarily we need to get great players around Tannehill. Now I think it's kind of obvious that he was saying what everybody thought the first time. You got to be great around Tannehill. And if you are, Tannehill will be very good. And if you're not, and he's throwing to Racey McMath and Anthony Ferkser, he's not going to be very good. And so, I have just learned that Ryan Tannehill is not the problem, and Ryan Tannehill is not the solution. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chase in Bellevue says with protection, he's a top 15 quarterback in the league, solid, and get what the Titans get. What's funny is we got about 30 text messages into the text line after that first segment talking about Tannehill, and almost every single one of them is pro Tannehill. What I will say is that there are probably 30 other people that will text in a segment or whatever it is, 40, 20, whatever, that there will be 30 other people that text in if the Titans lose on Sunday to Indianapolis, which very much is on the table. Very much is a possibility, even though I don't think Indy's very good. You absolutely could lose that game, and it's going to be, we got to bench Tannehill and see if Willis or Levis can do it. How much longer do you think the Jets would be interested in Tannehill? What about the Falcons with Tannehill? And I just know where it's coming from. And LD from McMinnville is a good example here. LD said, 2 text messages from LD. Good grief. I hope you have plenty of chapstick. This is embarrassing. Then follows it up with, I'm fully on board with Tannehill being the quarterback, but I hate Tannehill and will celebrate the day he's gone. So all I am arguing is that I'm done with this. I'm done with all of the, Jared, do you think that they should try Will Levis out, see what happens? No. Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback. That's all I'm saying. He's the quarterback for right now. Somebody texted in earlier this week and said, don't you think they should try to get Tannehill and Henry to sign team-friendly extensions right now? And I'm like, why? Why would you try to get them to sign team-friendly extensions right now? I mean, you can get them at the end of the year. And the market for those guys, no matter how well they play, will probably not be very high. So if you end up making it to the divisional round of the playoffs and you feel good about Tannehill and the progress with Tim Kelly and the receivers and where the thing's headed, and again, this is something that we wouldn't know the answer to, but you don't feel great about Will Levis, so you want to run it back with Tannehill, then you sign Tannehill again. But you don't need to do that now. What I am talking about is that for right now, for this season, Tannehill's the guy. And I remember when the schedule came out, and we saw, boy, there's some good teams early in that season. Cincinnati and the Chargers and the Ravens. And if they can just get to 3-3, they should be okay. Because the rest of the schedule seems to lighten up a little bit. And this is when everybody still thought Jacksonville is good, which as of right now, they're not. But we looked at that schedule and we said, 6 games, then the bye. Tannehill may only have 6 games. And after those 6 games, it would be very convenient. You get back from London, you turn it over to Will Levis. But they're not going to do that. Tannehill's already proven enough this year that he's going to be the quarterback. So there's really no danger of Ryan Tannehill losing his job. Mason says, what's wrong with you? Tannehill has 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions this year. He's 32nd of 33 when it comes to QBR. He's been great. Hell no. He's been solid, and solid is only good enough when everything else is great. Name any other quarterback on any team at that point that was great with twice as many interceptions as touchdowns. He's been fine. Ian, why did I tell you that I was furious with Tannehill for that interception that he threw on Sunday, that meaningless arm punt that he threw on Sunday?
Bad decision.
I was mad because I knew it was going to be used against him. It was a meaningless play. I wasn't happy because it was a bad decision, but it was a totally meaningless play. But again, come time to settle up, nobody says, well, that one against Cincinnati, he just chucked the ball down the field for no reason. They were up by 24 points, so who cares? But don't be sitting here telling me touchdown to interception ratio as if that's the defining statistic of Ryan Tannehill's season. I mean, again, Ryan Tannehill has a rushing touchdown. Derrick Henry has a passing touchdown this year. Deciding who scores the touchdowns, that's different than how well is your offense producing. It's 18 points a game, and right now that's not good enough. But you watched the Cleveland game, and you know the Cleveland game was not his fault because he actually played well in the Cleveland game. Andrew says, thank you, Jared. This fan base is made up of complete clowns. We are tied for the division lead with the quarterback playing well, and all these folks want to talk about is the draft or unproven rookies. It's like a loony bin around here sometimes. Sometimes I feel that way, and then other times I really think the Titan fan base is made up of 85% smart, reasonable fans with fair expectations. And the other 15% is, we need to tank for Caleb Williams. I mean, we got to tank for, we need to be so bad that we should get like that. You know what I mean? But we hear most of the crazies. And so sometimes we think, it's kind of like politics. The crazies end up on TV more than the regular people. But I think for the most part, the Titan fan base is not a Looney Tune fan base. And I'll tell you why I'm convinced the Titan fan base isn't a Looney Tune fan base. Because when, we talk about Derrick Henry, we get all these text messages and calls about how it's time to move on from Derrick Henry and can you win with a running back and everything else. But when I'm at the stadium and, they're starting to roll things on offense, the crowd starts chanting, Henry, 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 including in the Charger game where they throw a ball 70 yards down the field, and instead of everybody saying, yeah, keep passing, the fan base is like, all right, give it to Derrick. So, again, I think it's 85% normal, composed, smart Titan fans with fair expectations. And then the 15%, they're like the crazy Cowboy fans out there. 615-737-1025. More of your phones. 615-737-1025. Plus, there is one player that may be making a return this week who, I got to tell you, I'm not going to say kick him to the curb, but mentally, kick him to the curb. We'll get to that coming up next. Hey, make your silly underdog picks for your chance to win weekly prizes. You can play at theGameNashville.com or the 102.5 The Game app as we approach Week 6 of the college football season and Week 5 for the NFL. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket.
All the big plays.
Henry, touchdown, Tennessee!
All the big stories.
I fully expected DeAndre Hopkins wanting a one-year deal.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Touchdown, Tennessee!
You're going to make a trade like this.
Does he want to retire a Tennessee Titan?
The door's on the board.
Such superstar players. The Game and the Game Nashville app.
20 years ago, when Genesis Diamonds came to Nashville, this was one of the most expensive cities in America for diamond jewelry. Our radical approach and no middleman pricing changed that forever. And now we're doing it again, this time with lab-grown diamonds. We were shocked to find out what the other mall stores and the other big radio advertisers were charging. For example, they sell their platinum 4-carat VS2 lab-grown earrings for $13,480. Ours are 40% less with better diamonds. Their 5-carat lab-grown diamond earrings are $17,950. Ours are half that price with better quality, 50% less at Genesis. Looks like they might be going back to the old ways. If they're charging this much on lab-grown diamonds, kind of makes you wonder what else they're selling at the same outrageous markup. Nashville, we are not going backwards. At Genesis Diamonds, our non-commissioned trusted advisors are here to give you all the information with details you can trust and prices you can count on. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Hey home buyers, TJ Anderson here with More Great Homes. Located just steps from the White Bridge Shopping and Dining District of Nashville's Hillwood neighborhood, 80 Brookwood Terrace offers 2 homes with over 4,300 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, formal office, media room, a 2-car garage, and a 1-year builder warranty. Contact my team today at tjandersonhomes.com for more info. Want your home listing to be seen and heard by home buyers? Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why we are referred by clients so often. TJ Anderson Homes at Benchmark Realty, office number 615-432-2919.
We gather together in communities across the nation to remember and honor, to celebrate and support, to light the night. We are LLS, and when we walk, cancer runs. Find your local event at lightthenight.org.
Hey, are you seeking relief? Maybe you just want to enhance your day or night. Did you know there are legal THC products available right here in Tennessee? Yeah, really. You can have legal THC products shipped directly to the comfort of your home. Yes, comfort in cannabis is only a website away. Visit greentreescompany.com. That's Green Trees with a Z, and change your life today.
DraftKings Sports and Social is bringing you the ultimate fan experience this football season with a 48-foot media wall, 22 TVs, mouth-watering game day eats, and cold beer. DraftKings Sports and Social, opening October 5th at Nashville Live on 2nd Avenue.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, live and local from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you want the national
Hey. I got this. I'll take it from here.
Okay, go ahead. Dying to hear this.
We have the best national voices that you'll find anywhere.
Who was more deserving of being thrown from their game?
I'm odd, so I get the odd picks.
They have a new coaching staff. It's not a bad scenario for them.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
And 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, this is Roman Yossi. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Yeah, Kyle's done a great job. We know whenever he's been healthy for us. Obviously, he has the agility and quickness on the inside. Great feel for getting himself open underneath. And just been dealing with some injuries, unfortunately. So, look to work him back in, see how things progress this week. But talk to him. He said he feels good, and we'll see where things go.
Kyle Phillips, they've opened the IR window for return with Kyle Phillips. And let me just be one to tell you, I do not care about Kyle Phillips. I am not looking forward to Kyle Phillips' return. And if I were the Titans, I'd be looking at it like this. We're going to let him return the punts, even though that should make you nervous. Let him return the punts. And, like, if it's a blowout or if, somebody needs a blow or if, we find ourselves in the right situation for him to get in the game, then we'll put him in the game. But I am not taking Nick Westbrook-Akine or Chris Moore off the football field to put Kyle Phillips on it. I mean, this is a what have you done for me league. And right now, NWI and Chris Moore are out there making some plays, and Kyle Phillips stays injured. So, I mean, I know, training camp, he looks great. He's this, he's that, he's right. I'm going to invest in the guys who play well in the games. And right now, that's NWI and Chris Moore. And my thing about Nick Westbrook-Akine and Chris Moore is it would be one thing if they weren't giving you big catch after big catch to say, hey, let's work Phillips in there and see what he has. But if you work Phillips in there to see what he has, what you're doing is you're going to take away snaps from the guys that are giving you positive production when they're in the game. It's like, it doesn't matter to me to take away snaps from Trevon Wesco to put in Josh Wiley. But it now matters to me if you want to take away snaps from Josh Wiley to put in Kevin Rader, because Josh Wiley is producing on the football field. And I'm not the biggest Nick Westbrook-Akine fan. You know that from over the years. But as Coach Prime says, you play good, they pay good. And so if you keep making plays, I'm going to keep putting you out there on the field. And so the guy who can never get himself on the field, I'm not stopping anything that I'm doing for him. I mean, it's almost like with Kyle Phillips, if he were to walk back into the room and I'm Tannehill and he'd just sit down at the wide receiver table while we're talking about the game plan, I'd be like, hey, man, are you healthy for this week? Yes, sir, I am. All right. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to see you. Unless I need you, you just sit there. Because I'm going to worry about the guys that do play and make plays in the games. What phone lines are all worked up over Tannehill. 615-737-1025. One texter says, are these anti-Tannehill people high? He's thrown for 250 yards in 2 of the 4 games this season. It's still way too early to make a knee-jerk reaction and pull the plug. He's not perfect, but he's the best functional option the Titans have right now. And if the running game continues to come around, the Titans will be fine. Again, this is the thing about Tannehill, is if you can run the ball and you can block and you can catch the ball and you can call decent plays, Tannehill will be pretty good. If you can't do those things, Tannehill will be pretty bad. Ian's got a theory about Tannehill, by the way. I don't want to throw you under the bus, but I do think it's a fascinating theory. And I did kind of hear the morning show reference this. And, Ian, what's your theory on the fans in Tannehill?
Oh, I just think after the Cincinnati playoff game, everyone's done.
So you just think that the Cincinnati and who was the most mad of anybody in your orbit over that Cincinnati playoff?
You were up there.
I mean, I was to the top. And it has permanently changed my opinion about what you can be with Tannehill, like what the ceiling is for the team.
There's a certain amount of fans who are like, hey, we already know you can't win the Super Bowl with Tannehill. What's the point of continuing with Tannehill if you already know you can't win the Super Bowl? Sure, you can be a good team. You can make the playoffs. You can win the division. But I think a lot of those people are over it. There's almost like this permutation of the Preds philosophy that has like started to infiltrate the Titans philosophy. And so many people were with the Preds and hanging on with that team. And now everyone's kind of on board with pulling the tape. And even people were tanking and wanting to tank. And you can't get good unless you get really bad. So there's kind of like this almost mental gymnastics that are going on about Tannehill and the ceiling and the team and what's best?
So here's where I would differentiate the two. In hockey, in order to get great players, you have to be bad. Like, in order to get the best players, you have to be bad. Connor McDavid's team drafted him. Austin Matthews' team drafted him. Connor Bedard's team drafted him. Like, if you want Steven Stamkos drafted, you have to be bad. Like, that's just the reality of the sport. The best quarterback in the NFL is probably Patrick Mahomes. His team was the number 2 seed in the AFC playoffs the year before he was drafted. They didn't tank for him. The Buffalo Bills made the playoffs for the first time in 19 years in 2017. And in 2018, they drafted Josh Allen. So in football, it's a different sport where you don't necessarily have to tank in order to get a good quarterback. In fact, a lot of the teams that do tank end up drafting quarterbacks that kind of stink, like Justin Fields. Texter into the text line says, so are the Titans getting a 50-50 Tannehill, and are you okay with that? I mean, I'm okay with a Tannehill that if you block for him, you catch for him, and you call him decent plays. I'm okay with that Tannehill, the Tannehill that you have right now. Do you going to win the Super Bowl? No. But your roster's not good enough to win the Super Bowl. And the one thing where I would push back on Ian's take about the Cincinnati thing, I think Ian's right, that the fans look at the Cincinnati game and, like, that's it for them with Tannehill. But now that we're starting to see the offense play better, and now that we're starting to see more of those wow kind of plays from Tim Kelly, even the ones Tannehill didn't hit week 1 against the Saints, even the one they didn't hit early where DeAndre lost the ball in the sun against Cincinnati, you see those plays, though, in the game. Isn't it pretty obvious that the hiring of Todd Downing was probably an even bigger problem than we realized at the time? Like, even midway through last year where everybody was done with Todd Downing, isn't there a chance that that was actually an even bigger mistake? Now, I know they wanted to hire Tim Kelly, and Tim Kelly's not perfect. That game plan against the Browns 2 weeks ago was freaking stupid. But they wanted to hire Tim Kelly, and the Texans said no, and David Culley kept him on as offensive coordinator, whatever. But, like, again, let's just say that the Titans had hired Tim Kelly. Arthur Smith leaves, they hire Tim Kelly. Maybe that Cincinnati game doesn't happen because Tannehill doesn't regress for the entire season because he's actually got a good play caller. And I think it's obvious, as much as Vrabel wants to fight it, that Todd Downing wasn't a good play caller. And so I think the real problem is Downing did a lot of damage, and the Titans weren't ready for it, which is why Tannehill turned the ball over so much in 21. And then Tannehill spent the whole offseason, deciding not to turn the ball over in 22. And I think now we're starting to see, a little bit more free and easy. Though he's turned the ball over a little bit, as he did stupidly on Sunday. But, again, it didn't hurt anything. I just didn't like the fact that it happened because then I knew somebody was going to say, look at the interceptions. Chris Sanders will join us next. His thoughts on the Titans. And how about Nick Westbrook-Akine and Chris Moore? What's he make of it? We'll get to that coming up next here on the program, here on Stillman and Company. Tune into Vandy football this Saturday on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. The Commodores will kick off at 3 o'clock on the road against Florida. Pregame begins at 1:30, and coverage is available on 102.5 The Game's app and theGameNashville.com.
Blue Raider football lives on 93.3 Classic Hits.
Coming up Wednesday, the Blue Raiders take on Jacksonville State in the blackout game at Floyd Stadium. Join Chip Walters and Big Joe Dubin starting at 6 o'clock.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits.
Attention all fire protection, commercial plumbing, and HVAC experts. Jarrett Companies are looking for experienced field technicians like you. Tired of working for your large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett's Fire Protection, commercial plumbing, and HVAC divisions are owned and operated by Nashville natives who want you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we'll also provide you with top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and our business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to JarrettCompaniesInc.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT CompaniesInc.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Hey, it's Jared from my friends at Hiller. If you have some things around your home that you've been putting off fixing, like your regular HVAC maintenance or a clogged bathroom drain, Hiller has some big discounts this month. When the temperature drops and you start using your heater for the first time, you do not want to be dealing with breakdown issues, and this month, Hiller is offering half off HVAC tune-up. And Hiller is bringing back their $99 drain cleaning special. These deals only last this month, so be sure to call today. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds of Falls and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
It's time to celebrate this fall and unleash the beast. Monster Brewing proudly presents to you Beast Unleashed. 0 caffeine, 0 sugar, all the adult beverage fun. The Beast is unleashed with great taste, bold familiar flavors, and 6% alcohol. Go wild with Mean Green, White Haze, Peach Perfect, and Scary Berries. Don't fear the Beast. Enjoy Beast Unleashed at your next tailgate or football party. Drink responsibly. Must be 21 and over.
Teddy's Tavern, downtown's newest bar with an old Nashville feel, is conveniently located across the street from Bridgestone Arena and just blocks away from the pedestrian bridge. Get a taste of the new brunch menu to fuel your Titans Day pride on game day. Pre-game specials from 9 a.m. till kickoff when the Titans play at home include 2-for-1 draft beers, mimosas, and Bloody Marys. Teddy's Tavern is where you want to be before every Titans home game, so come downtown early and meet me at Teddy's.
They combine hard-hitting journalism.
The Titans asked Kevin Byard to take a pay cut.
Strong-willed opinions.
There's hot takes and then there's like weird takes. Yeah. This is a weird take.
And sometimes some old man takes.
I'm excited about it. So do I gyrate embarrassingly?
To create the perfect morning show, they are Robbie and Rex Road. Mornings from 6 to 9. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Ryan, what do you say from Nick, and where's your trust level with him?
Which one?
Westbrook and Keenan.
Yeah, Nick's made some big plays for us. You know, obviously he's been so consistent over his 3 years here. I guess going on 4 now. With us, you know, just consistent day in and day out. We can move him all over. He does the dirty work for us. He can make plays down the field. You know, you see him finish a tough run on the touchdown collision right at the goal line. So it's a guy I trust, and we trust as an offense because he does so much for us.
Hey, that was Tannehill talking about Nick Westbrook Akine. And I got to say, hey, the more you throw it to him, the more he catches it, the more he's making plays for you, the more I'm going to keep throwing it to him and hope that he catches it and keeps making plays. Former Titans receiver Chris Sanders joins us now on the program. Chris, I want to start on how you feel about watching NWI and Chris Moore right now and what they've added to the passing game, specifically on Sunday against Cincinnati.
Man, they're playing consistent. And just listen to the interview with Tanner. He said one key word that really stands out is he trusts these guys. And the funny thing about the whole situation, Jared, is at the beginning of the season, you had NWI in the receiver room. You had Moore in the receiver room, and everybody was talking about the Tennessee Titans didn't have any receivers. So when guys hear that, they have a lot to prove. And all these guys do, they just come out, they work, they run the route, they catch the pass, and they go to the sidelines. That's the kind of cast that you want on a team. I mean, even though they don't get the pub and the national attention that they get, they're good for this Tennessee Titans, just for the Tennessee Titans.
Chris, how encouraged were you by the offense's performance Sunday?
Oh, It was outstanding, and I want to take my hat off to Tim Kelly. And the reason why I take my hat off to Tim Kelly is the offense was creative. I mean, look at the things they did. They did a flea flicker. They did a jump pass with Derrick Henry. I mean, just, putting in extra tight ends to block to help the offensive line. Just looking at the whole situation from the offensive line to the receivers catching the ball to Tannehill to play action. It just made a fun day. And just kind of listen to the interview with Tannehill. He said these key words. He said, we were having so much fun. Why were they having fun? It's because Tim Kelly was putting these guys in a position to have fun, but also that everybody was making plays.
Chris, how can the team go from being so bad one week to then being so good the next?
I don't know. I mean, I think you just got to be consistent. This league is really, really weird. I mean, the week before they go against Cleveland, they get blown out. Then they come to Nissan Stadium and they blow out the Cincinnati Bengals. Situation with the Miami Dolphins last week. They beat 70-0, then they get beat by 30. I just think that this is what makes a team that's great, that they got to win the winnable games. And I think that if the Tennessee Titans can get on the roll, start winning the games that they're supposed to win, then now you can start classifying them being a good team.
Former Titans receiver Chris Sanders is with us. How much do you give credit to the defense for Sunday, knowing that Joe Burrow wasn't 100%?
Man, I give a lot of credit to Shane Bowen, and I'm gonna tell you why. Is because, man, they made Burrow look so uncomfortable in the pocket. I understand that he had
Didn't Burrow's calf make Burrow look uncomfortable in the pocket?
He did, but the smartness of Shane Bowen is he's sending blitzes to where Burrow didn't have a chance to even set up and make a throw. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. 2018, Week 10, where we were playing Tom Brady when they beat him 34-10. Is we knew that Tom Brady would struggle sometimes if they send pressure to the A and B gap, and that's exactly what Shane Bowen did to Burrow. They sent pressure to the A and B gap, and he couldn't step up and make a throw. I mean, he looked like he's never played football before because of the blitzes that Shane Bowen was showing him.
Chris, what do you make of Indianapolis this week? Everybody's 2-2 in the division.
Yeah.
And this is the first division game on the road at Indy. Rookie quarterback. What do you make of it?
I mean, I still think it's a dangerous team. I don't know if Taylor's playing this week at the running back. I'm not sure. Have they declared that? I'm not sure.
So I don't think they've declared it. I think it's possible, but I mean, how likely would it be that Jonathan Taylor is Jonathan Taylor after having not taken a snap for 18 months or whatever it's been?
But he still poses a threat. You know what I'm saying? Just having him back there, he's a home run hitter. I mean, just looking at this Indianapolis Colts team, they're like Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, it's kind of like one week we look like world beaters, we beat the Ravens, and the next week we get beat by Houston. I mean, kind of stuff like that, kind of like what the Tennessee Titans are doing, but they still have some weapons. I mean, they have some weapons on defense like Buckner and Stewart, and you have some other guys on offense that's like Pittman, Downs, and Pierce, guys that can make explosive plays. But I think it's all going to come down to both teams, which quarterback shows up. Richardson, who's a rookie, who's not playing like a rookie. I know he's making some rookie mistakes, but if it all depends on which guy shows up, and if which guy shows up that plays well, I think that's the team that's going to win.
Chris, do you think that the Titans maybe struggle more on the road offensive? Like, is there a reason for it? Like, because in 2 games on the road, they've got 9 points.
I know.
And at home, they're averaging 27 points a game. You've played on the road in the NFL. Do you have an explanation for why that is?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question to ask here because I don't know because if you look at what the Tennessee Titans did in Nissan Stadium, they look like world beaters. They look like the challenge for the whole Super Bowl. But then they go and play Cleveland, and they look like they never played football. I don't know if it's the loudness of the stadium or because they can't hear the cadence or the offensive line can't fire off the ball quick. I just don't know. But they look like 2 different teams. But but what they have to do as a team that they want to be elite, they got to figure out to be consistent on the road and consistent when they're playing at home.
Do you think that the Titans, if you were a player on this team, would be looking at the division at 2-2 and everybody else there at 2-2 and feel a sense of comfort, excitement, worry? I mean, how would you feel about this as a player right now if you were on that team?
I think for me, I wouldn't be satisfied. I know that everybody's 2-2, but at the end of the day, if you're going to go to the playoffs, you have to win your division, and everybody's feeling the same. If everybody's feeling 2-2, you got the Jaguars is 2-2, you got Houston is 2-2, you got Indy is 2-2, you got the Titans that are 2-2. Everybody's feeling that same thing. That even though we're 2-2, we got to figure out a way to win the AFC South. So as a player, me individually, I'm going to make sure to say, you know what, even though we're 2-2, I'm not satisfied until we win the division and have to go to the playoffs.
Chris, how would you evaluate Tannehill?
I mean, it's kind of like the same thing. On the road, he looks bad, but then, at home, he looks like a world beater. Look at what he did against the San Diego Chargers, 20 for 24 for 200-something yards. And then this past week, he looked like he was a top-notch quarterback, but on the road, he looks totally different. But I just think that, with Tannehill, he's just got to make sure that consistently that he plays well. And I think that's the only problem that we're seeing with Tannehill.
So I actually didn't think Tannehill was bad against Cleveland. I just think they didn't block for him. He didn't have any time. And when he threw it, they didn't catch it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you also. But then, when you're a quarterback that threw 3 interceptions twice, I think that's where you get in fault. I understand that the offensive line is struggling with Brunskill, Dillon, and all those guys up front. But when you throw 3 interceptions, the finger's going to be pointed at you. But I just think that if he just figures it out on the road, this Tennessee Titans, and I'm not just saying this, can be one of the dangerous teams in the NFL if they play like what they did last week.
Chris Sanders is with us. If you were the wide receivers coach of this team.
Yes.
And I don't think Treylon Burks practiced today, but let's say that Burks was available. How could you take Nick Westbrook-Akine or Chris Moore off the field to put Treylon Burks, who has had his struggles right now catching the football, on the field?
I mean, you can't. I mean, if I'm a wide receivers coach, you got to make a tough decision. And I coach receivers at Montgomery Bell Academy. Sometimes I do have to make these decisions. But you got to go with the kid that's hot. You got to go with a kid that's making plays. You got to go with a kid that you can trust. And Chris Moore and NWI, you can trust. They've been reliable the whole game. Even though Chris Moore might not have the number of catches, he's consistently averaging 33 yards a catch and catching the bomb downfield. And then we have NWI that consistently gets open, that consistently makes the play. And then now he goes from that to where a quarterback of your team, the quarterback that's leading the charge, to say he's been reliable and I can trust. If I'm a wide receiver coach, and my coach said that, or my quarterback said that I trust my receivers, I got to go with the guy that he trusts, and NWI and Chris Moore are the guys that I trust.
Last one for you. What is your kind of gut feel on what we're going to see Sunday from the Titans? Are we going to see the good Titans, or are we going to see the bad Titans?
You know what, Jared? I think we're going to see the good Titans. And the reason why I say this is because I believe that Mike Vrabel is going to make sure he's consistently paying attention to details. I know there's a lot of coach talk and all this stuff. He's going to remind them of how they played against Cleveland, how they played against the Saints, that we got to come out with hair on our fire and not wait for somebody to make plays. So if you have all your coaching staff, Mike Vrabel, Shane Bowen, Tim Kelly, all those guys saying that we got to do these things, I think they're going to come out and punch Indianapolis coach square in the mustache.
In the mustache. Chris Sanders. He coaches wide receivers at Montgomery Bell Academy. As always, former Titans receiver. He'll be on the pregame show Sunday.
Let's go.
Chris, appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, Doc. Love you, man.
Love you too. Chris Sanders. Be sure to join Robbie with Chris and Derrick. Boy, I hope Robbie knows what he's in for, by the way, with those two. At Twin Peaks in Madison this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 for the award-winning pregame show where they'll break down the Titans and the Colts. The award-winning pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and The Beast Unleashed. So I found some surprising stats today. I was looking up something about Derrick Henry and the Hall of Fame, and I was doing a little and I was actually kind of surprised by something I came across. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And be sure to tune in to 94.9 The Fan this Saturday at 2:30 for the college football game of the week, Alabama and Texas A&M. Presented by Twin Peaks. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks for scenic views of all the hottest college football games across the country and home of 29-degree beer.
Green right, box 2 run, double catch. He takes you inside the huddle through the eyes of a quarterback.
Wide 85, take!
Catch ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck every Tuesday at noon as he breaks down the big stories in the NFL.
Buffalo, maybe Miami.
And with the Tennessee Titans.
The Titans might be like, we're interested in a 1-year, $1 million contract.
Tim Hasselbeck is on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Get
ready for #Blue Nighted Weekdays. With MTSU football, we're thrilled to announce that MTSU will be hosting not one, but two incredible games on Wednesday, October 4th against Jacksonville State, and Tuesday, October 10th against Louisiana Tech. And that's not all. Fans can snag 2 games for the price of 1. So gather your family and friends and secure your seats today inside Floyd Stadium. For more information, visit GoBlueRaiders.com. Let's go Blue!
The Parker Store at 1909 Nolensville Road in Nashville is the Parker Factory Authorized Store for your Parker hydraulic, pneumatic, water, and chemical hose needs. They stock metric tubing and hose connections to 42 millimeters in size, and they'll fabricate while you wait up to 6,000 PSI hydraulic hoses in a 2-inch size. Call the Parker Store at 615-248-8245 for all the Parker requirements you have. The Parker Store, 1909 Nolensville Road.
Get ready to elevate your game day experience. Titans fans, it's all happening at Mimo Bar on Titans Terrace. Just a short walk from the bridge at First and Demumbrian. They've got your epic pregame and postgame covered. With their Italian classics and sensational cocktails, your senses will be on a joyride. And hey, listen to this. Everyone at the Titans Terrace gets a chance to bag a Gibson Guitars merch bundle, a $100 Mimo postgame gift card, or a weekend brunch for 2. So why wait? Mimo Bar, where Nashville's heritage meets Italian flavor.
Now, your Game Center update.
The Tennessee Titans were back on the practice field today as they get ready for their first divisional game up in Indianapolis on Sunday. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill said today that divisional games do carry a little extra weight.
They're big games, right? And obviously games, you want to win them all. But the division games, have a little bit more in them. And obviously, good team, right? You look at Indianapolis, they've been good over the past several years. They played us tough just about every time we've played them. So we know we're going to have to be on top of our game and play for 4 quarters.
The team announced that they have promoted tight end Kevin Rader from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. Wide receiver Mason Kinsey has been signed back to the practice squad. Titans versus Colts is set for noon on Sunday. The Nashville Predators continue preseason action tomorrow night. Tune in tonight starting at 6 o'clock right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game for the Preds season preview show. And the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders have a midweek matchup as they host Jacksonville State tonight. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock on 93.3 Classic Hits. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
And the score!
You can run different offenses.
The doors on the board.
Off the field, on the field.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff.
You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. So have you ever heard the saying, facts do not care about your feelings? And it's always fun to say, right? Facts do not care about your feelings. And then somebody will usually give you something that they consider a fact that is actually subjective. And it's like, well, that's actually a fact that comes from your feelings, not the other way around. So I'm going to give you an example of facts maybe not matching up with the feelings. Ian, when you watch Derrick Henry on the football field, now I know that you've seen the stats because I included them in the grid, but when you see Derrick Henry on the football field, do you see the same Derrick Henry from 2019 that led the NFL in rushing and 2020 that led the NFL in rushing and rushed for 2,000 yards?
Well, we haven't seen quite a home run hit yet that we have
Binary question, yay or nay?
Yeah, I guess so.
See, I would say no. I would say that, he just, and I'm not saying that, again, I think Derrick is still a great back and everything else, but there's just something in me that makes me think that he was probably running a little bit faster, that maybe he had a little bit better breakaway speed, that maybe, he was running the ball better in those years, and he's still running the ball well, but, there's got to be some kind of slowdown, right? Like, we're talking about a guy at age 25, 26. Now we're talking about 29. I mean, there's got to be a little slowdown. He's only carried the ball 1,800 billion times over the last couple of years. But I was looking up how similar the first 4 games of this year would be to the first 4 games of the years that Derrick Henry had where he won the rushing title, again, 2019 and 2020. And I did this because I was doing, a topic about his Hall of Fame candidacy and something John McClain said, which we'll get to later. But I was thinking about those kind of things, and then I remembered that Derrick Henry is notoriously a slow starter by Derrick Henry standards. And there is something about the month of October that when Derrick Henry gets going and when it gets cold outside in November and December, that's when Derrick really becomes Derrick. So I looked at the first 4 games. 2019, and again, the Titans started 2-2 in 2019. And it was kind of like this. They blew out Cleveland. They blew out Atlanta. They had bad offensive games with Indianapolis and Jacksonville in there. Derrick Henry carried the ball 78 times for 310 yards and averaged 3.97 yards a crack and had 3 touchdowns. So again, Derrick Henry averaged about 20 carries and 78 yards a game. 397 yards per carry. Derrick Henry in 2020 carried the ball a lot more. He carried it about 25 times a game, up from 20 times a game. And he averaged 94 yards a game, but only 3.72 yards per carry. So 397, now we're 372. The Titans did start that year off at 4-0, which meant that they were winning games, and thus Derrick was getting the ball a lot. So he had 101 carries compared to 78 the year before and 73 this year. Derrick is averaging 18 carries a game this year. 285 yards and a 3.9 yards per attempt. He's got 2 touchdowns. Per game average, Derrick Henry is averaging 71.3 yards per game. Again, in 2019, won the rushing title. Through the first 4 games, he averaged 78 yards a game. A difference of 7 yards. Derrick had 3 touchdowns at this point in 2019. He's got 2 touchdowns so far this year, and he's got a passing touchdown. Kind of like 2019. Derrick averaged 3.97 yards per attempt. In 2019, he's averaging 3.90. Over the course of a 17-game season, Derrick Henry would have averaged in 2019 through the first 4 games 1,318 yards. He would have averaged 1,598 yards in 2020 and 1,211 this year. Guys, he's same back. The difference is he's not touching the ball as much, which in large part goes to the fact that, they played that Cleveland game where they just couldn't run. And so when they couldn't run, you're not going to keep giving him the ball when you're down. And you know me, I wanted to go run, punt. The Titans had different plans, and we'll never know if my plan would have worked, but we know their plan didn't work against Cleveland. But, isn't it obvious when you give the ball to Derrick, you win? And see, this is what I think happens. And again, my feeling is that Derrick isn't necessarily the same back that he was in 19 and 20. But the facts say that he is very similar to where he was in 2019 and in 2020. But what I think happens is this. The Titans go into the season with a hope and a plan for balance. Everybody wants to be balanced on offense. Nobody goes into training camp wanting to throw the ball 70 times a game. Even the teams that throw the ball all over the yard. The Kansas City Chiefs want to run the ball. They might not, but they want to. It's why Aaron Rodgers had Aaron Jones. It's also why he wanted Dalvin Cook this year. We want to run the ball. But then what happens throughout the course of the year is, as is the case right now with Nick Westbrook, Akine, and Chris Moore, the guys who play well end up playing more, and the guys who play great end up getting the ball more often. Again, these coaches, they go in with ideas into the season. That's why in college football, where there's no preseason, we see them, try to figure out the quarterback in the first couple of games. They got 100 practices leading into it, but they can't decide because you can't simulate what a game is. So the Titans go into every year with a hope for balance and with an idea of what they want to do. And then as the season progresses, they realize, we're better off when we give the ball to Derrick a bunch. Tim Kelly went into the first game thinking about balance, which is why Tajay Spears played 50-something% of the snaps and Derrick Henry played 48% of the snaps. We want balance. So on the passing plays, we want Spears in there. On the running plays, we want Derrick, but we want balance. Then after the Saints game, he realized, I probably should give the ball to Derrick Henry more. And he gave it to him 25 times, and they won. The math is simple. If you give Derrick the ball, you win. It is as simple as it can be. And again, facts do not care about your feelings. So you may look at me with the data, and you may say, well, what are you supposed to do when it comes to giving the ball to Derrick Henry in this game where he's averaging whatever yards per carry, or you're down and you're chasing the game? And I don't know. All I can tell you is that for the last 5 years, when you have given the ball to Derrick Henry consistently, you have won. When you say we're going to give it to him 20 times and you find a way to give it to him 20 times, you win. And every year the Titans go into the offseason and they try to help the passing game out. Every year. We're going to trade for Robert Woods. We're going to add Julio Jones. We're going to be more balanced this year. We're going to throw it more. We're going to set it. And by week 4, they've realized the best offense for the team is running the ball with Derrick, and as we all learned on Sunday, faking the ball to Derrick. That's your best offense. It's been that way for the last 5 years. And so Derrick Henry is right on track for another Derrick Henry-like season. And the Titans, just like all these other years, are figuring it out their own way of, we wanted to have a stronger passing attack, but when we try to do that, I don't know why, but we lose. And so they just go ahead and give the ball to Derrick. And that's what's going to happen this year. It's already happening. Sunday was an obvious tale. They gave the ball to Derrick. Derrick ran well. That gives them more confidence to give the ball to Derrick, so they'll continue to do so. Then they operated out of play action. Then the offense started rolling. Now they're playing a defense which struggles against the run because the Rams with their generic running backs ran it right up the tush on them. And the Titans will do the same thing on Sunday with Derrick Henry. And Derrick will get 20-something carries, and you'll probably win, because when you give it to Derrick 20-something times, you probably win. And then Vrabel will get asked all the questions that he's been asked over the years about, do you think 28 carries is too many for Derrick? What do you do with Derrick? It doesn't matter. But he's the same Derrick Henry. And if it's not broken, don't fix it. The Titans have tried. And what you got out of Tajay Spears right now, this is not the first time the Titans have tried to do that. Remember Darrington Evans? Matt LaFleur came in and he wanted to be the Rams. And Dion Lewis started getting more snaps than Derrick Henry. They've tried this. What happens is, because nobody wants to be a team that only runs the ball. The problem is that for the Titans to throw the ball, they have to run the ball to set up the passing game. But every year, they go into an AFC Championship game, they lose to Kansas City. Okay, well, we can't play like this. We're going to have to throw the ball more. We're going to, you know what, just give Derrick the ball. That's what this becomes every year, and this year's no different. They're going to give the ball to Derrick 25 times a game, And Derrick's going to keep running at that 3.9 yards a cut. I mean, I think it's incredible that in 2019, Derrick was 3.97 a carry. Now, they had to play Jacksonville early in the season, and they had some offensive line problems. And Jacksonville, defensively with Calais Campbell in that group, they were pretty good. So maybe those two kind of cancel each other out with the Cleveland game. But the fact that Derrick is only 0.07 yards behind his 2019 average is pretty incredible. So as much as it feels different, the facts say he's the same old Derrick Henry. So if he's the same old Derrick Henry, why would you not run the same old give the ball to Derrick Henry offense? 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in on this. 615-737-1025. And I have another theory about Derrick Henry and his success running the football and the similarities and the way the season plays out and everything else. And I want to get to that coming up next because it is a completely subjective thought. And we'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025 here on the program. 615-737-1025. Be sure to join us tomorrow because DraftKings Sports and Social, the most epic sports watching experience in town, is opening downtown on 2nd Avenue, and Stillman and Company will be there live from 2 to 6. DraftKings Sports and Social features a massive state-of-the-art 33-foot LED screen and their world-famous menu and signature curated cocktails. That's tomorrow. Stillman and Company, 2 to 6, the grand opening of the DraftKings Sports and Social downtown on 2nd Avenue.
Hey, it's Pete Weber. Join Max Hers, Hal Gill, and me for the Predators season preview show tonight at 6 o'clock.
Your home for Smashville is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hi, this is Warren Moon, former quarterback for the Houston Oilers, 9-time Pro Bowler, and member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As a former player, I've always focused on my health. Did you know about 1 in every 3 people in the U.S. will have shingles in their lifetime? Shingles can cause nerve pain and can last for months or even years. As we get older, our risk of having shingles and its serious complications increases. Getting the shingles vaccine is the only way to prevent shingles. Join me and gear up against shingles.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
DraftKings Sports and Social is bringing you the ultimate fan experience this football season with a 48-foot media wall, 22 TVs, mouth-watering game day eats, and cold beer. DraftKings Sports and Social, opening October 5th at Nashville Live on 2nd Avenue.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No. We tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our client's best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep. We have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah, and like us on Facebook, too. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This offense right now feeling its rhythm.
20 plus on 4 of the last 6 plays. The explosiveness they've been looking for. Speaking of explosiveness, Derrick Henry in open field. Derrick Henry's gone. Vintage King Henry for 29 yards and a touchdown.
Well, this is called swing gate right here. When you come up the field, you create different levels. Up the field too far, look at the level right there, and then King Henry, little stiff arm, that's what he's known for, and then that long speed, Adam, his ability to just get going. Once he rolls, ain't nobody catching that 250-pound beast.
Derrick Henry, that was the run the other day. The difference on average between 2019, where Derrick won the rushing title in his first 4 games, and the first 4 games this year, again, 1,318 yards on average after the first 4 games through 17, and 1,211. So you're talking about a difference of 107 yards for the season difference between how he ran the first 4 games of 2019 and the first 4 games this year. He's the same Derrick. And that run was an example. He never hits the home run. He hit that one. And I have a theory that there's no way to prove. And even if the Titans thought this theory might be true, they'd never tell you. But everybody always says Derrick Henry's a slow starter. And I remember Nick Saban one time, I think, told the morning show that he didn't really have an explanation for it, but the more that Derrick Henry touched the ball, the better he played. And I've always kept that in mind, but we've always seen in September, Derrick has a 100-yard game here, and he's got, but really it's, 72, 54, 85, and then as you get into October and November, that's where the 174, 198, like that's where those games start to show up, which are the games that make Derrick the rushing champion. But what if it's not Derrick that's the slow starter? Before the Titans played the Saints, I talked on Robbie and Rex Road about how the defense was going to have to win them the game because it was going to take time for the offense to get squared away, specifically the offensive line. It's going to take time for the play caller to really realize what he's got. It's going to take time for the quarterback to get comfortable getting hit and to know which receivers he trusts and which ones he doesn't. And remember, the Titans in 2019 had to play Jamil Douglas at right guard for the first couple of games of the season. Think about this offensive line. Total disarray. Right tackle suspended, left guard has an appendectomy, left tackle sucks, and all of a sudden, now that there's some consistency, now that there's some real hitting once a week, now that there's some more scheming, now, oh, wow, look at these holes. The Titans realize, we can't just throw Trevon Wesco out there on every running play. Let's try Josh Wiley to see if maybe that'll surprise the defense a little bit. And it did. So maybe Derrick's not the slow starter. See, the way the NFL works nowadays, you can't practice like you used to. Like what Mike Vrabel probably talks to the team, and he probably sounds like an old peepop when he does this. Now, lucky for him, he's got Nick Folk on the team who played, I think, through some of these days. But get Derrick Mason or Chris Sanders going on what practice was like for them in training camp compared to what practice is now. I mean, now it's like, 10 padded practices over the course of the season. Back then, it was 2-a-days. And, the Patriots decided not to come here for practice because it was too hot outside. Back then, they used to have the mentality of, good, makes us tougher out here. The NFL didn't change until Corey Stringer of the Vikings died. Then all of a sudden, mandatory water breaks became a thing. Light-colored jerseys, heat warnings, let's practice in the morning and set. That kind of changed things. And in every collective bargaining agreement, the owners who don't want to give up any money are fine with giving up practice time. In fact, not the last CBA, but the one before that, where they had the lockout in 2011, a bunch of coaches raised all kinds of hell because of how many off-season padded practices and training camp padded practices and everything else that it restricted. And these coaches were like, how are we supposed to get these guys ready for the season? And the owners didn't care because the owners want Thursday night football. The owners want 7 teams in the playoffs. The owners want more playoff games. The owners want a 17th game. So the owners will trade practice in order to get more revenue for the games. In fact, they cut a preseason game, which is pretty important because, that's 25 snaps maybe your offensive line gets to play, but they don't care. So, again, this is just a theory I'm just throwing out there that maybe it's not Derrick Henry that's the slow starter. Maybe it's the offensive line. And I do believe that the Titans right now probably feel better about their offensive line and working around the problems that they have with their offensive line than they did at the beginning of the season, where it was let's see if Dillard can do this. Now, I am hearing that, Peter Skoronski is going to be a game-time decision on Sunday. Just word on the street. And hopefully they get him back sooner rather than later. Texter into the text line says, Arthur Smith, and our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Arthur Smith is a head coach because he understood to give the ball to Derrick Henry. With this Titans offense and Tannehill under center, you have to run Derrick. And if you don't, Tannehill will throw 3 interceptions and he will blow it. Can I ask you this question, though? How many quarterbacks out there can really survive without the run? Most quarterbacks need a running game. And I would say that every young quarterback absolutely has to have a running game if you want to bring the young quarterback along. Like if I'm the Texans, I'm making sure we're giving Dameon Pierce the ball because the last thing I want to do is make C.J. Stroud throw it 55 times if you've got a young quarterback. And with Tannehill, you absolutely have to give him the running game. And if you give him the running game, he'll be successful. Texter says, so Tannehill is a symptom, and now it's not Henry's fault that he's a slow starter, so he's a symptom. Jared has built-in excuses for any time his favorite players are performing poorly, except that Henry is not performing poorly. My point is, if Derrick Henry gets better throughout the course of every season and runs the ball better, is it really Derrick Henry? Is it Derrick Henry that's the problem? Or is it the guys in front blocking for Derrick Henry? The Tom Brady documentary focuses on each Super Bowl that he went to, and they go over that season, and they have, Brady and a couple of other guys that talk about the season and kind of behind the scenes and everything else. And Drew Bledsoe is on the first edition of the Brady documentary. Vrabel is in the Brady documentary on one of the episodes where they talk about winning the 3rd Super Bowl. But Bledsoe's on the first one. And Bledsoe said that when he got into the huddle on the first day of training camp and saw the offensive line that they had, he thought, we've got a chance to be pretty good. The offensive line matters. And I think in today's society of the way the NFL works, it takes time in order to get your line right, unless you've got a line that's been playing together for years. But I wonder right now, if you put Derrick Henry behind the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, is Derrick 3.9 yards a carry, or is Derrick more like 4.1 yards a carry, which would be better than Derrick throughout the first 4 games of either of the 2 rushing title seasons? In fact, Derrick is running for more yards per carry right now than he did in 2020 when he won the rushing title. and ran for 2,000 yards. So don't make this about me building up excuses for Derrick Henry. Think of this more as, well, maybe Derrick is always good, and when they give him some blocking, he becomes great. Because we saw what Derrick looks like with no blocking against the Browns when Derrick had more yards after contact than he had yards last week. I don't know if this is true or not. One texter says, just playing devil's advocate, but I believe Tannehill's stats were better on straight passing plays versus play action last week, but I agree with what you're saying. Most of the straight passing plays last week were kind of the quick man beaters. The play action passes were the big shots down the field. Those were the play action passes. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. So speaking of Derrick Henry, we had a caller call in wondering if Derrick Henry was the greatest player in the history of the Oilers-Titans franchise after breaking Earl Campbell or passing Earl Campbell on the all-time rushing list. And I told the caller, I said, look, I cannot tell you about the Oilers because I didn't watch the Oilers. I wasn't alive when Robert Brazil or Elvin Bethea played. Warren Moon. I was alive during Warren Moon, but I don't remember Warren Moon. And then there's offensive linemen like Munchak and Matthews that are all in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I said, the guy that would be able to answer this for you is John McClain. And John McClain was on with Chase and Joe this morning, and they asked him about where Derrick Henry ranks. And I found his answer to be fascinating. Not just where he would put him or how he'd rank it or whatever, but his explanation, I thought, it was one of those ones where it almost raised more. Like if you had just asked John, hey, do you, who's better, Derrick Henry or Earl Campbell? And he just gave you a one-word answer. His explanation actually made me think, whoa. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
You need to give Ron Tannehill a 2-year extension.
There haven't been too many coaching changes for the Predators. And your source for Nashville sports.
I think that's what the Titans need.
Players who can score. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Jewelry business, it's in my blood. I've been doing it all my life, and it's my passion.
Meet Daniel Sabalas, a third-generation jeweler at Genesis Diamonds.
This line of work, it's all about honesty and trust. It's about building relationships.
And that's what drew Daniel to Genesis, where it's all about education, transparency, and respect for each customer.
It's based on a family business mentality, and that's how we are. We're here to educate, to guide you, and we make it very easy. So we really go out of our way to educate customers in the right way. There's no stress level, there's no tension. The customer can feel that.
All this while providing the guaranteed best value price.
I've never seen a company that has the best price like this that I've seen anywhere. We are a powerhouse of diamonds.
Genesis Diamonds. No commission salespeople, no pricing games, no risk, no pressure, no cutting corners.
Genesis Diamonds is going to give you the best price, best quality, guaranteed, no matter what.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
When getting the job done right is job one, you need construction equipment that's built right. From compact track loaders to the world's #1 selling compact excavator, the Kubota construction lineup features durable Kubota engines, more comfort, and the versatility to do it all and do it right. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
October is here, and you know what that means. Nashville's free annual event, Oktoberfest, this Thursday through Sunday at Bicentennial Mall in Germantown. Bring the whole family for a weekend of competitions, local artisans, vendors, live music, incredible food, and authentic German beer. Prost, y'all.
It's Raymond and Austin. We're back on All-Star Sports Radio. Celebrating their 30th year, our sportsbook and casino sponsor, BetUS.com, is offering a 125% sign-up bonus plus up to 30 risk-free bets.
It's called Bet Protect, the perfect offer for crazy plays, like the famous butt fumble. It's the GOAT of embarrassing plays.
Really, remember when you bet me you could do a live show with a GOAT as your co-host, and he face-kicked you?
Thankfully, I didn't take the under on that one.
Anyway, folks, get Bet Protect today. The industry's biggest 125% sign-up bonus plus up to 30 risk-free bets. BetUS.com, where the game begins.
So, if there's brunch, why isn't there dinner?
Or dunch, for that matter.
No, we know why there's no dunch.
Why is that?
People might get confused and miss brunch.
And I never want to miss a brunch this good.
Me either. Cheers.
Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Breakfast buffet Monday through Thursday from 7 till 10:30 a.m. and lunch from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Weekend brunch Friday through Sunday from 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. featuring cast iron pancakes, made-to-order waffles, and eggs and carafes of mimosas. Treat yourself today to Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Blue Raider fans, your home for all the MTSU football and men's basketball action is on 93.3 Classic Hits and 95.1 Classic Hits in the borough. Catch the action all season long with Chip Walters on the call. Go Blue Raiders!
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase McCabe and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You kind of talk about Earl, kind of admiring maybe the legacy he left. How cool is to pass him and maybe get recognized, I guess, in game?
Yeah, I'm thankful, I'm blessed. Grateful for everything, grateful for this opportunity. You know, I was a kid just, you know, that loved football, playing in my grandmother's yard in Yulee, Florida, and my opportunity to get a chance to play Pop Warner and moving up and up and up as the older I got, and to be mentioned with a name that I've heard so long as a kid. You know, it's a surreal moment for me. I'm thankful. God is good, and I'm thankful for the people that helped me get there.
Derrick Henry passing Earl Campbell on the all-time Titans rushing leaderboard, which, as I said on Monday, that is not nothing. That is a big freaking deal because Earl Campbell was the man. And so that is a big deal that Derrick Henry's passing Earl Campbell. And every time that I, see stats like that or something, I just think to myself, what would have happened if Matt LaFleur had used Derrick Henry correctly in 2018? What would have happened if Derrick Henry hadn't broken his foot in 2021? And I know there's no crying over spilt milk, but a caller called in on Monday and said, with Derrick Henry passing Earl Campbell on the all-time rushing list, is Derrick Henry the best player in Titans-Oilers history? And I was like, I can tell you right now, Derrick Henry's the best player in the history of the Titans. Better than Steve McNair, better than Eddie George. And I think those two are usually synonymous with the best Titans of all time, and I watched them, and I loved them, and I cheered for them, and I'm telling you right now, Derrick Henry's better than both of them, which tells you how much respect I have for Derrick Henry. But as far as the Oilers, what am I supposed to know about what Robert Brazil or Elvin Bethea or Earl Campbell or any of those guys? I didn't cover them. I don't know. And I said, look, Chase and Joe are going to talk to John McClain on Wednesday, as they always do at 9:30, and John would have a good idea. So Chase set it up for John, and he asked him, how would you rank this with Derrick Henry having passed Earl Campbell? How would you kind of rank the great players of Oiler Titans history?
There'll never be any player better than Earl Campbell. What he did here, came out first 3 years, led the league in rushing, led them to the playoffs 3 years, got them to the AFC Championship game, one step short of the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, and they lost in the AFC Championship game to Pittsburgh. And he did it, and he had another 1,300-yard season. There in 1983, there was a strike here. In 1982, they only played 9 games. But Earl is the greatest player in Houston, in franchise history, Houston history. He started like a house on fire, and Henry didn't. And then Henry picked. When we had a Houston Sports Hall of Fame, first 3 people we put in were Earl Campbell, Nolan Ryan, and Akeem Olajuwon, because we think they're the best in our three sports. But people in Nashville, of course, are going to say Derrick Henry.
So I'm not trying to argue for Derrick Henry over Earl Campbell because I didn't watch Earl Campbell play. But I found John's answer fascinating, where John said those first 3 years for Earl Campbell, he was on fire, and he led he led the league in rushing, and he led the team to the playoffs, and he got him to the AFC Championship game. And I heard that, and I thought, well, Derrick Henry for a 3-year period, 19, 20, and then 21 when he broke his foot, Derrick Henry led this team to the playoffs, led the league in rushing, led them to the AFC Championship game, basically led them to the number 1 seed because when Derrick Henry got hurt, the Titans had wrapped up the AFC South. So to talk about Earl Campbell and say, hey, Derrick didn't get started from the jump, well, remember, they had DeMarco Murray here, and I'll never forget Mike Mularkey telling me when I asked him why Derrick didn't play more when they had DeMarco Murray. And he said, well, how did Derrick Henry do at Alabama? I said, he was great. He said, how much did he play as a freshman? I said, he didn't play a lot. He goes, okay. So I can't hold that against Derrick, that it took Derrick some time to get going, because the only reason it took Derrick some time to get going is because the Titans had DeMarco Murray, who led the AFC in rushing. And then when DeMarco Murray got hurt, Derrick Henry went into the playoffs, ran for 155 yards, beat the Chiefs. So again, I'm not arguing against Earl Campbell in this Earl Campbell, Derrick Henry kind of thing. But I do find it fascinating to say, well, Earl led the league in rushing in 78, 79, and 80, and they got to 2 AFC championship games, and the only reason that they didn't get to a Super Bowl is because they ran into those Steeler teams with Terry Bradshaw and the Steel Curtain and Franco Harris, and, well, you ran into Mahomes. Like, that's why you didn't win, because you ran into Mahomes. So, those first 3 years, Earl Campbell was unstoppable. And Derrick led the league in rushing for 2 years, and that third year he got hurt where he was leading the league. And Derrick was leading the league in rushing by such a wide margin that it was like 3 weeks after he had broken his foot before somebody passed him. And that's why I felt so sick to my stomach when Derrick broke his foot, because I knew if he wins a third rushing title, there is no way he's not making it to the Hall of Fame. You win 3 rushing titles and you've got 2,000-yard seasons, you're making it to the Hall of Fame. And now I have to be honest with you. I think that, Derrick Henry's the kind of guy. Would I vote for Derrick Henry in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. But Derrick's the kind of guy who 5 years might be kind of forgotten. They may use certain things against him that aren't necessarily his fault, like the fact that DeMarco Murray played those first 2 years over Derrick Henry. But those 3 years that Earl Campbell had and those 3 years that Henry had, where the Titans won 2 divisions and got to an AFC championship game and had a number 1 seed in the AFC, and Derrick won the rushing title twice and he ran for 2,000 yards, sounds kind of similar. So maybe Derrick really is up there. And again, I'm not arguing for Derrick over Earl Campbell because I never watched Earl Campbell play. But I know Earl Campbell was a bad boy. Phone lines are in by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Texter says, I grew up in Houston during Love Ya Blue and have been in Nashville for almost 20 years. Earl Campbell is without a doubt the most talented and prolific offensive skill player in the franchise, particularly relative to what was happening during his era in the NFL. It was a different game then. Earl Campbell earned his gold jacket and should be revered as one of a handful of the best Oilers Titans ever. Well, don't you think, though, that Derrick Henry should be in the discussion for one of the best Oilers Titans ever? I mean, again, how many players that played for the Titans or Oilers that were primarily Titans or Oilers are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Warren Moon, Earl Campbell, Mike Munchak, Bruce Matthews, Robert Bazile, Elvin Bethea, And I'm trying to figure out if Dan Pastorini is in the Hall of Fame. And I don't think he is, and I don't think Ken Houston is, and I don't think, any of those wide receivers like, Hayward Jeffries or Ernest Givens or Billy White Shoes Johnson. I don't think any of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think it's just that group. Well, again, I think Derrick is the best Tennessee Titan ever. So then Derrick would be in the same conversation. I'm not saying Earl Campbell didn't earn his goal. I didn't watch Earl Campbell. I saw the Earl Campbell documentary, and Earl Campbell was a bad boy. But I lived through Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry was, and I don't know if you guys saw the game on Sunday, but is still a bad boy. Wes in Clarksville says, I was on vacation when Derrick Henry broke his foot and it ruined my vacation. This is a true story. So the night the Titans played the Colts in Indianapolis, just like they're playing them this week in Indianapolis, and it was Game 5 of the World Series. So the Braves had won Games 3 and 4, and my dad and I were in Atlanta. We're going to Game 5. The Braves are up 3-1 in the World Series. And my dad and I and, one of my best friend's dad, who's also a huge Braves fan, we went to a Dave & Buster's in Marietta, where they put the Titans and the Colts on the big screen for us because we were the only people that were in the Dave & Buster's. And there was like one other guy who every time they hand the ball off to Derrick Henry would go, "Go King, go King, go King," every time. And I don't even think he was a Titans fan. But so they put on this giant movie theater screen for us to watch the Titans beat the Colts in overtime. And I remember walking back into the hotel thinking to myself, the Braves are up 3-1 in the World Series and are probably going to close it out tonight. And the Titans they were something like 6-2 and it just basically won the division. And even though they didn't play well, they still won the game, which is the hallmark of a good team. I'm like, the sports gods have never been this good to me. Something is wrong. And I remember walking into the hotel thinking, man, the sports gods are on my side. And then the Braves lost. Now, they didn't win the World Series, so that was great. But we're driving back after the Braves lost Game 5. And my dad's driving. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm kind of laying backwards in the seat, kind of, catching a little shut-eye. We had Robbie and Rex rode on. They had Corey Curtis on. And Robbie just goes, "We've got breaking news. Adam Schefter's reporting Derrick Henry out for the season with a foot injury." And I was like, oh, no, there we go. I knew the sports gods were going to do me wrong. So I understand the sentiment. More of your phone, 615-737-1025. We continue. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Vanderbilt football lives here.
This Saturday, it's Vanderbilt and Florida from Gainesville. Kickoff at 3 p.m. Coverage starts at 1:30.
Your home for the Commodores is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. The official brand perception report for doors and windows is in. Pella Windows and Doors are the leading brand among all others. A few reasons why. Pella is regarded as the highest quality, the most innovative, and the installers with Pella of Nashville lead the way for attention to detail. That's why Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville is one of Pella's top locations in the country. For new doors or windows, I suggest you choose the experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaNashville.com.
This is it. The legendary live band Fish returns to the road this fall. Fish. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Bridgestone Arena. On sale now at livenation.com.
Actor Portrayal, based on a real patient experience.
I'm Mike. I'm a husband, proud father of 2, work my butt off 6 days a week, some nights too. When my family or my company needs me to make it happen, I make it happen. But a few months ago, I started having trouble making it happen, in the bedroom. I tried some pills online, but they didn't work. Honestly, I thought about throwing in the towel on my sex life, but I'm not that old. I still want to enjoy intimacy with my wife. Like that poet said, I don't want to just go gently into that good night. So I went to the Tennessee Men's Clinic in Franklin. Got some lab work done, was prescribed some meds, and wow, it made it happen. I can't say enough about them. Their providers took care of me, followed up, and made sure I had a treatment plan that actually works. It's awesome. If I were you, and you're like me, I'd give them a call today, 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. If you're like most guys, they'll make it happen for you too.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra, results vary.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Nashville's radio version of The Odd Couple.
You would trade for the third pick? Yeah, I don't know that I would do that.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode.
I'm here for the discussion. I'm not. It's a good one.
It's absurd. Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 9.
Win the games. When they get in the playoff, they'll have a chance to.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
How happy are you for Derrick to pass Earl Campbell and it coming to win, obviously?
Yep. We're always happy for our players when they have success, and how important Derrick is to this franchise and this team and me and everybody else. So told the Buckeye Eddie George that Derrick's coming for him.
There you go. That was Vrabel after the game. And, I would say this. I do wonder, with Vrabel, and I'm not going to tell you who was at the press conference because I didn't ask him if I could say this or not, but they said Mumbling Mike was up at the podium today, which it sounds like Mumbling Mike was at the podium today, which means he's got a tight rear end about this Colts game. And with Vrabel during the season and things like that, there's never a moment to sit there and say, like, hey, you played in the NFL for a long time, and you appreciate the history of the game. What do you make of the fact that what you get to see is passing Earl freaking Campbell? Because my guess is Vrabel has, honestly, a pretty insightful take on it, but he's not going to give it to you because we're going to focus on the Colts and we're going to get to that. Texter says, all this talk about how great Derrick Henry is makes me even more pissed about how the Titans have handled the offensive line. They're robbing us of watching his greatness because he's getting hit before he even gets the ball half the time. They are ruining his chances for the Hall of Fame. Let me say this. Derrick Henry ran for 2,000 yards in a year in which the Titans' offensive line had no offseason program because of COVID. No preseason games. And David Quessenberry as the starting left tackle. The thing about Derrick, and Sunday's game is a crazy example of this. He can run with a bad line. He just can't run with no line. He can run with a bad line. I mean, last year, they went into that last game with the playoffs on the line against Jacksonville with a third-string quarterback and with Dennis Daly at left tackle, Aaron Brewer at left guard, Corey Levin at center, Jordan Roos at right guard, and Nicholas Petit-Ferrer at right tackle. Jacksonville knows the only way Tennessee's going to win the game is if Derrick Henry goes in there and runs them out of the building. And Derrick still had over 100 yards. Derrick, I mean, to me, I think you've just got to embrace. Now, I understand, if they had the Dallas Cowboys offensive line from the 90s, with Nate Newton and Flozell, the Hotel Adams, and that group, what would that look like? I agree. But I would say that, Derrick Henry he'll still run the ball well. Like we should enjoy what we're getting to watch. The one thing that drives me crazy, when we talked about these people out there that want to bench Tannehill every time the Titans lose, which is ridiculous. But the people that are like, I don't want to win with Henry anymore. We can't win in the playoffs with our running back. We can't. Let me say this. The second Derrick Henry retires, and that moment will probably come sooner rather than later, and I hope it doesn't, but all good things must come to an end. The second Derrick Henry retires, for like the next 8 years after Derrick Henry leaves, we'll be watching regular run-of-the-mill running backs, and we'll be thinking to ourselves, God, remember when they could just hand the ball to Derrick Henry? I'm telling you that's what's going to happen. Like, I am certain of it. Texter says, for Derrick to make it to the Hall of Fame, I think he has to pass Eddie George. I can't see another 2,000-yard season, which would make it automatic. I agree. I think Derrick's going to pass Eddie George. Knock on wood. I think Derrick's going to pass Eddie George. I think Derrick Henry will be the running back of the Titans next year, even if Tannehill's not the quarterback. I think Derrick Henry will be the running back of the Titans. Texter said, according to Pro Football Focus, and you know how I feel about Pro Football Focus, Derrick Henry was hit on average 7 feet behind the line of scrimmage against the Browns. Just crazy. Now, this texter brings up a great point. It says, all this praise about Derrick Henry going to that Indianapolis turf is making me nervous. Please knock on wood. And I did just knock on wood, but, whew, boy, that Indy turf, Indy itself, Texter says, I hate the debate about the Titans and Oilers. Derrick Henry is the greatest Titan Oiler. The level of competition compared to today versus back in the 80s is incomparable. Athletes today are unreal, and the old folks saying back in my day are crazy. Now, yes and no, right? Like that's that J.J. Redick, Jerry West and Bob Cousy were playing against plumbers argument. I think everything has to be in the context of greatness for when you played. And there's no doubt about it that Earl Campbell was a great running back when he played. But see, what's crazy is, and I can't tell you about Earl Campbell one way or another because, again, I didn't live, during Earl Campbell's peak. But I did live through Eddie George, and I am living through Derrick Henry, and I don't even think it's close how Eddie was the best player on a very good Titans team and was kind of the heart and soul of the organization for a period of time. But, it didn't feel like they got to the Super Bowl because of Eddie George. And it didn't feel like they were 13-3 because of Eddie George. But when I think about the run to the AFC title game in 2019 or the divisions the last couple of years, I really feel like Derrick Henry's the reason why the Titans win these games. Like, Derrick Henry is the reason. And I never felt that way about Eddie George. I was actually thinking this in my head today. Like, where does Derrick Henry rank in the NFL if you were to just rank the best players since Tom Brady left the Patriots? So I feel like, that's kind of the chapter of a closed chapter of an era. Brady leaves the Patriots. Since then, who are the best players in the NFL? Mahomes, Aaron Donald, Kelsey. Derrick's got to be up there, right? And I'm sure and I do not go to the text line to throw names out there because we're not getting into this. But, how many guys are ahead of Derrick Henry over the last 4 years? Just in terms of, how good they are, what they've provided their team. How many guys are there? Like guys that have won as much as Derrick, that have carried their organization as much as Derrick, have won big games for their team as much as Derrick. There's really not that many guys. Right? And then I think about some of these NFC teams, and I think they're probably certainly up there. Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers are probably up there. But, Derrick has had a special, he's been a dominant player in this league. Like, he's been, one of the elite of the elites. And he's still doing it. 615-737-1025. I have got to give Titan fans some serious credit. Because there's one thing that I have felt this entire week. And I want to get to that next. Because I think it's very important for the team to feel the same way as the fans going to the Indy game. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Whether it's college football,
Players might end up not going to Alabama or Georgia.
Or the NFL.
I think that this team wins the AFC South.
Trevor knows. Join ESPN's Trevor Maddich every Tuesday at 4:30 on Stillman and Company as he gives his opinions on the latest from the gridiron.
I'm going to the team where I can get a ring.
Trevor Maddich brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, where experience matters, on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
When it comes to shopping for home and auto insurance, the companies that usually come to mind can only offer one coverage option. So, if you want to compare prices, you're forced to visit multiple websites just to get one quote at a time, but not with Zander Insurance. Zander is a broker that works for you, shopping dozens of top-rated companies to find you the best rates this year and every year so your price stays competitive, keeping your life simple and hassle-free. Compare rates all in one place at Zander.com, or for a more personal touch, call 800-356-1780.
O'Reilly Auto Parts' new Brake Best Select Pro brand raises the bar for the best aftermarket domestic brake pads and rotors available. For vehicle-specific friction formulations, Quiet-Tech noise-canceling shims, and stainless steel hardware, choose Brake Best Select Pro. Professional-grade brakes from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is delivered by Black Tie Moving. The Tennessee Titans were back on the practice field today as they get ready for their first divisional game up in Indianapolis on Sunday. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel on the importance of an early season divisional game.
I think that there's a lot of familiarity between us and the Colts and their style of play, a lot of respect for them and what they do. So you have to play well in the division. And you have to win those games. Those are critical if you ultimately want to win and be in the playoffs and host playoff games. So we understand the importance of it and how critical it is at this early in the season going on the road.
Wide receiver Treylon Burks, linebacker Luke Gifford, and defensive lineman T.R. Tart all did not practice today. Wide receiver Kyle Phillips and offensive lineman Peter Skoronski were both listed as full participants. The team announced that they have promoted tight end Kevin Rader from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. Wide receiver Mason Kinsey has been signed back to the practice squad. Titans versus Colts is set for noon on Sunday. The Nashville Predators continue preseason action tomorrow night. Tune in tonight starting at 6 o'clock right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game for the Preds season preview show. And the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders have a midweek matchup as they host Jacksonville State tonight. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock on 93.3 Classic Hits. This Game Center update delivered by Black Tie Moving. Use the promo code GAME to score 10% off your next move. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
79-52 Vanderbilt.
And I think he's going to coach him up by Cheryl.
You're going to see more moves.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. So I think that Titan fans have not gotten enough credit. Especially, not that the football people would say this one way or another, but you know how football people get, and I'm talking about the football people. Every time we lose, everybody's got to get fired. And every time we win, we're headed on to the Super Bowl. What? Spitting their little dip cup, every time, right? Every time I'll tell you those fans, they don't understand what it's like being a football guy. But I got to give the Titan fans some serious credit here because I think the Titan fans are living in the perfect headspace after the Cincinnati blowout win going into the Colts game. Now, I am hesitant to completely believe that every Titan fan is feeling this way, but I do feel 2 days after of taking your phone calls and your text messages and talking to, all of my friends that went to the game, that watched the game, was at the gym today talking to everybody about the game, I feel like Titan fans are approaching the Bengals blowout win the right way. Because you get blown out the way you got blown out against the Cleveland Browns, and it's like the sky is falling, the team stinks, the coach is a mess, the line is horrible, the game plan was awful, and we moaned and kvetched, and we went crazy for a week. Then they come out and do the exact opposite to the Bengals. And yet I don't hear Titan fans getting carried away with that. And I think Titan fans, and this is where they should get some credit, because Titan fans over the years have said and done some pretty crazy things. But I think Titan fans look at that Bengals win, and they kind of take it with a massive grain of salt. I think there's some satisfaction that we learned that the Titans can put together a good ball game, and that the Titans got back to 2-2, and that the Titans, showed signs of life on offense, and that they really put it to the Bengals. But I also think Titan fans look at it like one of two ways. Either one, the winning 27-3 only makes up for the losing 27-3. So it's like you lost 27-3, and you win 27-3, so now you're back to even. So normally if you just won 27-3 independent of a 27-3 loss, the fans would be, oh, Jared, we're going to the Super Bowl. Oh, my God, look at this team. They're so good. Oh, they dominated. They're the best. And instead it's like, well, hey, we saw on one hand, you get your butt kicked, and then you go out there and you do the butt kicking again. You're net zero. I think the other thing, too, is Titan fans realize Joe Burrow's got a bad calf. And that, it's like the text line the other day. You get the one texter in there that uses quotation marks around the word hurt when it comes to Joe Burrow. And then we get, a mass just waterfall of text messages talking about how, of course, Joe Burrow was hurt. He shouldn't have even played in the game on Sunday. I would trade whatever it takes to get Joe Burrow, even though Joe Burrow clearly is not right with that calf. Again, we all like it when our team does well. But we all know how good Joe Burrow is. And we know that what we saw on Sunday, that's not Joe Burrow. So Titan fans are not getting carried away over the win. Titan fans are recognizing that when they block, when they catch, when they get open, when they tackle, when they do the things that are fundamental to football, they actually have a pretty decent team. And I think that that's good. Because as far as the team should be concerned and all of us, none of what happened against the Bengals matter if you don't beat the Colts on Sunday. This Colts game is a game that the Titans absolutely should not lose. I've watched the Colts tape. I know what the Colts are good at. I know what the Colts are bad at. The Colts have some serious weaknesses. And yet, again, having the Titans in the right headspace, knowing the Titans the way that we know them, I'll just tell you right now, if the Titans go to Indianapolis and they run the ball well and they protect Tannehill and they catch it when he throws it to them and they sack the quarterback, which is going to be harder than Watson, who broke all those sacks, because this guy's more elusive than Watson. And they don't give up big plays, and they don't fumble punts, and they don't do stupid things that get you beat, if the Titans go to Indianapolis and just do what they're supposed to do, they're going to win. If they go to Indianapolis and they play Titan ball, if they play Titan ball on Sunday, they're going to win. You know, if you were going to Kansas City, I wouldn't necessarily say that. When it came to the Browns game 2 weeks ago, I was telling you, this has got to be ugly. This has got to be a rock fight. This has got to be run, punt. This has got to be hope Deshaun screws up, because you can't go to Cleveland and play Titan ball. Their players are too good. Indy's are not. The Colts players are not that good. So if you go to Indianapolis and you play your game, you will win on Sunday. But if you go to Indianapolis and you screw around the way you screwed around with the Saints, you're going to lose. If you let wide receivers run right by you down the field and you give up 30, 40-yard gains to Anthony Richardson, who can throw the ball out of the stadium, you're going to lose. If you get caught up in a man, and you're going man-to-man and you're plastering your guy and Richardson takes off and he gets out into space like Derrick Henry, he's going to run that ball into the end zone. You're going to lose. If you go out there and you muff punts and you miss field goals and you get punts blocked and you throw interceptions and you're not on the same page and you can't get the snap count right and you single up Andre Dillard with you're going to lose. And the Titan fans are cautiously optimistic after Sunday's game that, hey, they've got the pieces to be a decent team. And they're playing in a division where 10 wins and winning all the division games will probably get it done. But that we also recognize the faults of the Titans. You know, there's two different kinds of people that have problems that I have to deal with on a daily basis. There are people that have problems that want to fix their problems and can look in the mirror and see their own shortcomings and realize why they have whatever issue they may have. And then there are people that are only looking for validation and are only looking to hear that they're right all the time. And sometimes with fans, especially me, who is inherently glass half empty, I get frustrated with a lot of the fans that only want to hear the good talk, that only want to be told your team's good, that only want to echo the points of the coach or the team broadcasters or whatever it may be. And that frustrates me to no end. But I don't think Titan fans feel that way about their ball club right now. I don't think Titan fans are sitting there after the game on Sunday saying, what a great game by Shane Bowen to hold the Bengals to 3 points. Because we know why the Bengals were held to 3 points. I think Titan fans can look at the way the game was officiated on Sunday and say, yeah, even though they won, the referees were just as bad as they were in the Saints game that they lost. I mean, I really feel like Titan fans have a real grip on this football team. And maybe that's just because your opinions of the team are mirroring my opinions of the team. But I didn't feel like after that Bengals win on Titans Monday, I didn't get a lot of text about they're going to stack all these wins and they're going to win the division and bring on Kansas City and bring on Buffalo. And I think there's a sense of like, all right, let's move on to Indy. And this is going to be another one of those games where we hope the good Titans come out on Sunday, but we are very prepared. We know there's a chance the bad Titans will show up on Sunday as well. And I think that's the right headspace for Titan fans to be in. I think that is exactly where this team lies. And I think, again, in a society where football people look down on football fans as if football fans don't have any idea of what they're talking about, I think the Titan fans have a pretty good feel for their team. I actually heard Paul and Joe this morning on the morning show, and they were talking about, play calling. And Robbie was there, but he was more of an innocent bystander in this. But they were going over the whole we don't really know the play calling and what's a good play call and what's not a good play call. And they know all the tendencies and the play calls and all of that. And, Ian, you know what I'm talking about, like the covering for the football people. Not covering, I shouldn't say that, but just kind of the fans and us, we don't really know what all goes into play calling, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think about was that Floyd cut of, if we go to Houston and J.J. Watt wrecks the game, somebody ought to be fired because we cannot block him with one guy. And I'm like, so explain to me the play calls on the Myles Garrett versus Andre Dillard. Explain that one to me. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025, plus my initial opinion of the Colts. And my buddy Sweeney, who I worked with in Louisville, is now doing the morning show in Indianapolis. And I asked, after watching the Colts tape, some very poignant questions. We'll get to that. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
New home. New energy. Same Blue Raiders.
99 yards! Touchdown, Middle Tennessee!
Catch every game for MTSU on 93.3 Classic Hits. Coach Rick Stockstill is poised to lead his team to yet another bowl appearance.
We're really excited about this opportunity.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
The Electronic Express 40th anniversary sale is going on now. Help us celebrate 40 years of service and save up to 40% throughout the entire store. This week, get a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for only $399, or a stainless steel refrigerator only $499. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing on items like a top-load laundry pair, only $349 each, or an LG touchscreen laptop, just $799. Shop our 40th anniversary sale. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Country music singer-songwriter Kylie Morgan absolutely loves her Genesis diamond ring.
I got so many compliments as soon as I got the ring and continue to get compliments on it because it looks really pretty on my finger.
Kylie's husband Jay heard folks in the music industry raving about Genesis, but he also did a lot of homework on his own.
When it came to finding the ring, he took it very seriously. He did all the research. I think he knows more about diamonds than any man in the entire world, and that's how he landed on Genesis. He just knew that they were the best.
Jay picked out a stunning, flawless, pear-shaped diamond in an elegant setting. Got the value price Genesis is known for. And now they both tell everyone they meet about the amazing Genesis experience.
When you walk into Genesis, you can just feel the happiness. You know that they're helping find something that symbolizes the love that you have for your partner, and you can feel that as soon as you walk through the door.
Always been you, and I've always been your wife.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. The official brand perception report for doors and windows is in. Pella Windows and Doors are the leading brand among all others. A few reasons why. Pella is regarded as the highest quality, the most innovative, and the installers with Pella of Nashville lead the way for attention to detail. That's why Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville is one of Pella's top locations in the country. For new doors or windows, I suggest you choose the experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaNashville.com.
Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You know, it's a great opportunity to go on the road. You know, I think for all of us that are trying to, just improve and do, ultimately win our division, you're going to have to win a couple of these on the road. And so I do think it's a great opportunity. Everybody's bunched up in there. It's early, but great opportunity.
There you go. That was Vrabel today. So our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I have my initial thoughts on the Colts. But Indy Ben has texted in, and Indy Ben says if the Colts do what they do best and play their game like they did versus Baltimore, they should win. The same argument can be said for both teams on Sunday. Did you only watch the Rams game? That was probably the worst game the Colts have played as a team this whole season. I watched the Rams game. I did watch the end of the Ravens game, but I didn't, sit there and watch it like the film. And I watched Texans game. So here's my take, Indy Ben, on your team, the Colts. I think the Colts stink. So I know they're 2-2, but I think that Baltimore game was a total fluke, and everything had to go right for the Colts in that game for them to win. Their kicker, who missed a point-blank chip shot last week, their kicker hit like 6 kicks over 50 in that game. We talk about how bad the officiating is. The Ravens got absolutely jobbed on a 4th down in overtime pass interference non-call. They just draped the receiver around. Gardner Minshew played quarterback. Again, not to sit here and badmouth the Colts, because I try to tell it like it is, regardless of how I feel about a team. But I thought that was one of those games where literally everything had to go right for the Colts for them to win in overtime against the Ravens. I think the Colts stink. Anthony Richardson might have the most talent of any individual in the NFL. You know how I feel about Anthony Richardson. I would have taken Anthony Richardson with the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I would have traded whatever it took to get to number 3 with Arizona to take Anthony Richardson. I liked him more than C.J. Stroud. I liked him more than Bryce Young. I liked him more than Will Levis. I liked him more than all of them. But that doesn't mean that he is a finished product by any means. He is very raw. And yeah, sure, they've got some good players on their team, but every team has good players. The Chicago Bears are the worst team in the NFL by far. And they've got DJ Moore, who's a good player. The Colts line stinks. Their receivers stink. Their running back doesn't want to be there and hasn't taken a carry. And all the names that you know are not playing very well. Buckner, Nelson, Pittman, Leonard. The guys that are playing well, that are good players right now for the Colts, are guys like Zaire Franklin, their linebacker who makes, I think, every tackle on their team. But the names you know, they're not producing the way that they should. There was a ball in the end zone Pittman should have caught for a touchdown on Sunday against the Rams. And the Rams, they got up 20-0, and then for some reason they just stopped throwing the ball to Puka Nacua until the game got close again. But this Colts team, they're not very good. And I talked to Sweeney in Indy, who does the morning show there, used to work with me in Louisville. And I said to Sweeney, because their defense is ranked 29th, and I think their defense kind of stinks. And I was like, are my takes on the Colts fair? And Sweeney said, very fair. And he said, apparently the Colts are dealing with such a bad injury bug right now that they had a walkthrough today instead of a practice. Multiple guys on the offensive line are in concussion protocol. DeForest Buckner's on a pitch count. And Kwity Paye, Sweeney notes, who sucks, it has a concussion as well. Kwity Paye is not good. So I do think the Colts are well coached with Shane Steichen. And, Gus Bradley, he can run the defense fine, but he's nothing special. But quite frankly, Indy Ben, I don't think the Colts are very good. In fact, I think they kind of stink. And if I were the Colts, the way the Colts win is by Anthony Richardson making a couple Superman plays. And he is absolutely capable of that. And as much as I dog the Colts when they stink, like last year and the year before that, I don't know how long Anthony Richardson's going to be raw for, because when I watch Anthony Richardson play, I see a little bit of Josh Allen. I see a little bit of Cam Newton. I see a little bit of Derrick Henry. I see a little bit of Mariota, how he throws the ball up the seam. I see a little bit like the arm. It's like, I don't know if there's a quarterback in the NFL I've seen that has such a free and easy rocket launcher like Anthony Richardson does. Maybe Mahomes. Now, Mahomes is way more accurate and it's way more fluid than it is with Richardson, but it's so free and easy. He's just got so much talent. Woo! Just so much talent. Texter says, I'm worried because Richardson looks like a legit run threat, and for some reason the Titans stink against running quarterbacks. They need Azeez Al-Shaair to ball out because he's best at running side to side. I believe the Titans will have a spy on Anthony Richardson, and that might not be good enough. I'll tell you, when Anthony Richardson, think about Derrick Henry when he catches the ball on a screen pass, and Derrick gets going. Like when Derrick catches the ball and has room to run, it's like, everybody, watch out, because he's big and strong, and he's just picking up speed. That's Richardson. When Richardson gets out there, it's like watching Derrick Henry. I mean, that is the kind of talent that Anthony Richardson's got. I mean, when he gets out there and goes. So I am worried about that. Texter says Richardson has a cannon like Stafford. It's so effortless. It's weird because for me, Stafford, throws tight. Like with Stafford, keeps the ball tight, and his throws are, kind of laser beams that are tight but with Richardson, it's like a slingshot, and the ball just goes. Texter says if we're doing comps, is Ryan Tannehill, Kerry Collins? I think you get to a point in the NFL where you've played long enough that there's not really a comparison for a veteran player, right? Like we don't talk about who Mahomes projects to be because we know what Mahomes is. Like we compare Lamar Jackson to Michael Vick, but we don't do that anymore. So once you've played long enough, you kind of are who you are. And so Richardson hasn't played long enough to be who he is. And I had somebody today say to me, well, I saw Richardson in college, and I don't think he'll be a good quarterback in the NFL. I'm like, buddy, he's already a decent quarterback in the NFL. And I'll say this, too, about Richardson. And I can go on and on and on and on about what I think of Anthony Richardson. I mean, it was almost like, I was setting Shiva the night that the Colts drafted at number 4 overall because I'm so tired of Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, and now I got to deal with Anthony Richardson. But Anthony Richardson he's got so much talent that if the Colts don't mess him up, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Woo. Chris in Lewisburg said, Jared, the Colts beat the Ravens, who some consider a contender. Yeah, I think that one was a September football fluke. Like, everything had to go their way. Like, everything had to go their way. And then they won by a field goal in overtime. And those games happen. Like the Rams, who ended up making the divisional round of the playoffs, Jared Goff at quarterback, lost a game to the Jets, and that's why Trevor Lawrence is on the Jags and not on the Jets. One texter says Kyler Murray has an arm that's comparable. Is Kyler Murray's arm that good, Ian?
He's got a pretty good arm. I don't think it's comparable to Richardson, though.
I mean, Richardson's arm is I think Richardson's arm is... But
Murray was a baseball guy.
You know who I would compare Richardson's arm to? Like, I'm talking about the athleticism being like Derrick Henry. Remember when Joe Flacco was young? I think maybe some of that. Wes is up next on the Colts. Been waiting patiently. Thank you for calling. What's up, Wes?
Oh, Jared, I had to call in because Indy Ben, that was his second take for the day. And his first one, I needed to get your opinion on it. He basically said that the Titans and the Colts were, I guess, basically the same team, and that if the Titans play their absolute best and the Colts play their absolute best, that it's going to be a dogfight and neck and neck. I cannot see that happening. I think if the Colts play their absolute best, the Titans play their absolute best, that the Titans win this game by a long shot. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think the Titans are going to win any games by a long shot on the road this year. I mean, I don't care who they're playing. Like, I don't think they're going to beat, I don't think they're beating any of these teams by a long shot. That being said, if the Titans play their best, they're better than Indianapolis. I mean, I really think if the Titans play their best, then they're better than all three of these teams in the division. And I said this yesterday on the show that right now I'd rank them, after having watched the tape, I'd rank them Texans 1, Colts 2, Jags 3. And I mean that. And I think the Titans can lose to all three of these teams. And I think the Titans should beat all three of these teams. But if the Titans play their best, Indianapolis, can't really stop the run. And if you can't stop the run and the Titans play their best, that means Derrick Henry's running the ball right up the middle every play. And we've seen Derrick Henry run the ball right up the middle on every play against the Colts before. And that's nothing new. Fitz will join us next on the program. We'll get his thoughts on it here on a Stillman and Company Wednesday. I almost forgot what day of the week it was. Let's talk about Twice Daily. That's right. I love Twice Daily, and you have got to be a Twice Daily loyalty member. That's right. So download the app and join their loyalty program because it pays to be a member with Twice Daily, where you'll earn points and save money with every visit. And get what you crave at Twice Daily. Made to order sandwiches, bakery, breakfast, lunch and dinner, fresh items made to go, hot drink, cold drinks, and of course stop by the beer cave to unwind with a cold one. If you're looking for convenience, Twice Daily has you covered. And if the Titans score any points in the last 2 minutes of either half, there is a free half sub the next day for all loyalty members through the app. So Monday, if you were a loyalty member, you could have gone to Twice Daily because Derrick Henry threw that touchdown pass right before the half. If this Sunday against the Colts, the Titans score in the last 2 minutes of the first half or the last 2 minutes of the second half, then you get a free half sub at Twice Daily the next day. But you got to be a loyalty member. That's Twice Daily, fresh all day.
All the big plays.
And we are done. Vandy 24-21.
All the big stories.
I'm sure Vandy will be a much better team if Clark Lee is the coach.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
What a stop by UC Sarah.
Then he wouldn't end up on my team.
Driving his way to victory lane.
I think that's the right strategy.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Oh, Charlie's, that's where you find me. That southern flavor got me saying, hey, y'all. Yum, yum, have some fun. Share with the ones you love. Don't you want to roll?
At O'Charlie's, we thought you'd enjoy a little country rock and rolls. The warm, buttery, delicious kind. Served free with every meal. O'Charlie's. Oh, that's good.
Yum, yum, have some fun. Charlie's, born in Nashville, and it shows.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Penalty Box Radio Live is back. Join Alex Doherty and Sean Smith every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for a full hour of local hockey talk, full analysis of the Nashville Predators. Honest hockey talk like you've come to expect from the Penalty Box Radio brand over the years. Penalty Box Radio is back home on 102.5 The Game for the 2023-2024 hockey season. For more, check them out at penaltyboxradio.com.
Are you always on the go? We've got you covered. Download the Game Nashville app from your app store and listen to us wherever you are.
Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexroad. It's Chase McKay.
Caroline, Willie, D-Mays.
Stillman Company.
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
Good station. I listen to it all the time.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Jason Fitz joins us, Fox Sports Radio and Yahoo Sports. All right, Fitz, I want to start with this. The Titans smoked Cincinnati 27-3. I would put Joe Burrow's health at about 30%. How much credit do the Titans get for blowing out the Bengals, or is it a huge take a grain of salt with that score?
Oh, huge is a big word, but let's be honest. I think, right now what you have is bad coaching in Cincinnati, and I just can't say that loud enough. Like, they've done nothing to adjust their offense with the injuries that Joe Burrow is facing. And the calf strain, I think, is a big deal. You got to remember the chain. We all talk about this, like lower body strength and where it powers the throw. Like, they've done nothing to sort of shorten up the routes and put him in a better situation. I think it's been abysmal, the lack of adjustments by the Bengals. It's been borderline malpractice to everything that they need to accomplish, and it goes off the rails. So they would have been better off playing Jake Browning, and I can't believe I'm saying that. It's just Burrow's a shell of himself. So I still think a win's a win, and it's a dominant win. But I do think we have to acknowledge that's not the normal version of the Bengals. Like, so I'll put a grain of salt on it. Not a win in the NFL is still a win, but there's a grain of salt on it.
Okay, the Titans get their first divisional matchup with Indianapolis this week. They're 2-2. Indianapolis is 2-2. Houston's 2-2. Jacksonville's 2-2. Jacksonville beat Indianapolis. Indianapolis beat Houston, and Houston beat Jacksonville. So what do you make of it?
I make of it that there's a lot of chaos in the division, and frankly, the good teams aren't playing as good as they should have, and the bad teams are playing better than they expect. Like, I think Houston, for example, has been far better than most people expected. C.J. Stroud immediately stepped in and just settled in. And I think Indianapolis has been a little bit of what Anthony Richardson was at college. Let's take the Gardner Minshew game out of this and just talk about AR for a second. Anthony Richardson has had a couple of games where he threw the ball really well at times, and a couple of games where the coaching staff obviously doesn't trust him yet to throw the football. So it's interesting because that's reflective of some of the inconsistencies we saw in Florida, and part of the reason that people said, myself included, he needs time in the NFL to develop as a passer. So there's this spot where when you've got a passer developing on the offensive side of the ball, you have to sort of accept the fact that there are going to be games where he just beats everybody, and then games where he can't hit the broadside of a barn. So with that inconsistency, you'll know early on. Like, if Anthony Richardson's throwing the football well early in the game, they're going to be hard to beat. And if he's not, Shane Steichen, the head coach there, is going to do a really nice job of calling design runs that put him in a situation where he has less pressure, he can roll out, he has less reads to make. I think it's important to note that Anthony Richardson on some of his passes may only have one person in the route that he's even looking at. So, if you're looking at it from that standpoint, Steichen is a really good offensive coach, and the Titans are basically going to have to look at one thing. Don't let him run on you, and hope he's not hot as a passer. And I think that's pretty good hope.
I think with Richardson, my thing, Fitz, is that, he may throw a great pass, and then the next pass is, 10 yards over somebody's head. And those inconsistencies, I think, are more mechanics and, comfort and things like that over time. But the other thing, Fitz, when I watch a tape, and I know they beat the Ravens, but I think that was kind of one of those fluky September games, I don't think the Colts roster is very good. And a lot of the names that we know, like DeForest Buckner and Quentin Nelson, and they're not playing very well. And I guess I wonder, do the Colts have a decent team around Richardson?
No, and I think you're 1,000% right. Like, a decent team in name is not a decent team on the field. And you're right. The offensive line took a drastic step back last year, and I don't think that they've really fixed it this year, And on the defensive side of the ball, they've been playing way above their heads, right? Like, I'm with you. It feels like in the course of the first few weeks when you watch the Colts, sometimes it just feels like it's a flat game for one team, and the Colts are taking advantage of it. I would say the Ravens in some ways were that. They came out a little bit flat in that game, and I'm still a little bit shooketh that, when's the last time we saw the Ravens short on a game-winning field goal? It just never happens, right? So sometimes the football gods are kind to you, and I think the football gods have been kind to the Colts. That's one difference. If you watch the tape back on the Texans are actually playing pretty well. I think the Texans are playing much better than I expected. The Colts are finding ways to win games. So kudos to doing that, but frankly, if the belief is that the Titans are a playoff caliber team, if that's the belief for anybody listening, then you need to beat the Colts, because the Colts will, I think, at some point regress to the talent level they have. They're going to be a better team than I expected, but they should not. I don't think they will be in the playoff contention when the thing ends. It's
funny. I actually agree with you on the Texans, and I think the difference with the Texans, when I watch them, I think the Texans are well coached. And I know everyone's going to say, well, okay, DeMeco Ryans, but I think this Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator that he brought with him from San Francisco, I think he might be the next guy. Like the next McDaniel, what they're doing with C.J. Stroud, Fitz, is they're developing plays to get the ball into the hands of their best offensive player, which is Nico Collins. And I am so impressed with the effort the Texans are playing with and just how simple I feel like it's been with the quarterback. When you watch a tape on the Texans, do you see the same thing?
Yeah, 100%. You're right. And by the way, I had an interesting conversation today with an insider talking about what the reality is for defensive-minded coaches, because we live in such an offensive world in the NFL. And it was presented to me that one of the unique challenges for a defensive-minded coach is that if things are going well for your team, your offensive coordinator is going to be poached constantly. So you will need a deep list of offensive coordinator hires that you feel you can bring in and that can implement your system. So that's really interesting because I agree with you. If C.J. Stroud continues to play this way, then you're going to be looking for a new offensive coordinator constantly. And that's one of the things that, as you know, covering the Titans, you get the wrong guy in there and it sets the entire organization and offense back, right? So it's one of the unique challenges. And to oversimplify the Texans, by the way, right now, I know we're only a month into the season, but the Texans right now clearly look like they got the guy. And by that, I don't just mean a coach. I mean, I think they followed the game plan. They got a coach that can come in, which is remarkable that Nick Caserio gets another chance to hire a coach, finally finds the right coach who brought in the right coordinators. They drafted the right quarterback. I think they drafted the right guy on the defensive side of the ball. So, like, they did everything the right way, and it's resulted in a drastic change, not just to wins and losses, but what they look like on the field.
Jonathan Taylor Fitz was a full participant at practice today. Does that move the needle at all for you, having not taken a carry, in the preseason and in training camp and in a game to go out there on Sunday against the Titans and their run defense?
I talked to 3 different people today that I think are pretty knowledgeable on it. I got 2, he's going to practice, he won't play in the game. I got 1, he'll play in the game. I don't think anybody even realizes right now because he still has so much animosity towards his contract situation. I can't get a consensus on whether people really believe, healthy or not, on the roster or not, if he's going to be willing to play on Sunday. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is look at every one of the running backs that, did not play in the preseason because of their contract situation specifically. So you had Austin Eckler, who was angry with this contract situation, unfortunate injury for him. He's missed some time. Saquon Barkley comes in, has another ankle injury. Unfortunate for him. It's just the way it's played out. Josh Jacobs comes in and has looked absolutely out of sync. The timing has been terrible with him in the offensive line. So in the 3 examples we've seen of money getting into the conversations of running backs, each of those running backs has actually struggled in the early part of the season. I don't think it would be any different. If Jonathan Taylor can come in, that's spectacular. That's great. That's wonderful. I think he's a superstar. We all know that. But I don't think, even if you look at Alvin Kamara's biggest difference with the Saints in his first game back from his suspension was really his ability to take target share as a receiver as much as anything. He ran the ball okay. Like, I just think we have to understand that when you talk about the running game, it's not just about the running back. It's about the timing between the running back and the offensive line and the communication everybody has in that process. That timing takes reps. So even if he plays, I don't think he's a factor.
Fitz, what do you make of the situation going on right now in Jacksonville, and how would you rank the 3 AFC South teams other than the Titans? In fact, you know what? Rank the 4. They're all 2-2. Rank the 4. Throw the Titans in there. How would you rank them?
So I'm going to still put the Colts. I believe that the Colts are the least talented roster, and I believe that the Colts are going to be too up and down this year for me to have a lot of trust for them. So I'll put the Colts at 4 right now. I struggle at 2 and 3. Right how, man, this is tough because I think the Texans are far better than people expected them to be. And just on what we've seen this year, not based on potential anywhere, but just on what we've seen this year, I think the Texans might belong at number 1 in this division. I think the Jags are an epic disappointment at this point at 2, and they got to clean a lot of things up. I talked to my buddy that covers them down with the Jags, and I asked him, hey, what's wrong? And he said everything. There's nothing that this team does well that they usually do well. I think by the end of the year, they get it fixed, you know what I mean? But right now, if we're just based on what we've seen so far, I'm going to go 1 Texans, 2 Jags, 3 Titans, Colts 4. And that largely the Titans would be so much higher if I could have any trust in their offensive line. I feel like every week when I do my shows with Yahoo, Frank Schwab and I argued so much about the Titans coming into the season. And the main thing he said repeatedly is like, if that offensive line is not better, you cannot trust them to win football games. And so I feel like every other week we have an argument about the Titans because every other week the offensive line either looks putrid or okay. So like there's so little trust right there for the O-line for me. That's the thing that just, man, if the Titans could even get just middle of the pack, just like have the number 13 offensive line in the league, just not by Pro Football Focus, but like you're watching, like it's the middle of the pack. If they could just do that, then it's a playoff caliber team. I just don't know that I can trust that they can do that.
So Derrick Henry ran for 120 yards last week against the Bengals, and I do wonder, do you see that game and think he's back, or do you think that you're going to need more to be convinced that Derrick Henry can carry this team like the Derrick Henry of old?
I watched it, and I felt like, yeah, he's back. And then a day later, you're like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I would like to see more of it. And I'd like to see what they do with the slits, right? Like, at some point, we all know the Spears has been getting a lot more run than we expected. And I do think that there is a certain style of back for Derrick Henry that responds well to getting a big load. Like, just letting him go in and go to town. So I'm curious to see how they use the running backs moving forward. I still think, and I know you agree, I have to believe you agree, the methodology to how they win a bunch of football games this year is very simple. You just let Derrick Henry be Derrick Henry, and you trust that wins you football games. I saw it once. If I see it twice, for me, if I see it twice, now I'm saying, okay, everything's back, everything's good. He's got that rhythm back. But I also think that there must be something to what the coaches were trying to do in bringing him along slowly in that process.
You know what's crazy is that he's averaging 3.9 yards a carry, which is more than he was averaging through his first 4 games when he was averaging 3.72 yards per carry in the 2020 season where he ran for 2,000 yards.
So the interesting nugget on that is if you look at the stats of the last few league-leading rushers, every single one of them has started slow in the first month of the season. I've seen that, but I've asked everybody to explain the why, and nobody can tell me the why. So what I can't figure out, is that just a weird coincidence for the last, 4 years, or is there actual causation to that?
Last one for you. Is there a dominant team in the NFL?
The 49ers, I think, qualify as a dominant team, yeah. I mean, I don't have a hard time saying that. And it's weird to me because the Chiefs haven't played well, and they've still won a bunch of football games, right? Like, that's weird to me. So I think each of the AFC teams have dominance in them, but haven't necessarily been able to get that dominance to come through. But the 49ers, I mean, at this point, as I've told everybody I can as we prep for this weekend's game, I am so tired of talking about, is Brock Purdy the guy? Yeah, he is. Like, does that mean that any other team's going to be lucky enough to draft somebody with the last pick of the draft and turn him into the guy? No, but it's absolutely unquestionable at this point that the 49ers have exactly what they need at the quarterback position. And by the way, in a very boring way, all they've done every single week is go out and win football games. They don't have a fatal flaw on defense. They have arguably the MVP in McCaffrey. They got a ton of different weapons that are positionless that can beat you in a multitude of ways. And they have a quarterback that might not be the best athlete, but he is smart and he has figured out how to read defenses before the defenses can disguise anything. Like, I'm all in on Purdy at this point being that guy. He is a real deal. Oh my God, we've got our dude quarterback in the NFL. I think the 49ers right now are clearly dominant.
There you go. Jason Fitz, Yahoo Sports, Fox Sports Radio, always joining us on a Wednesday. Appreciate you, Fitz.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yep, Jason Fitz joining us on the program. Titans third, behind Jacksonville. I was a little surprised by that. 615-737-1025. I'm about to give something away, but first let me tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. That's right. Hiller has taken great care of my home for years, and they can do the exact same for you. And I know that because, again, I've used Hiller at my home, and I don't even think about using anybody else. And it is starting to get cooler. I got a little sad looking at the weekend forecast. I think the lake may be gone for the year. And it's time to start thinking about your heating system. You do not want to experience breakdowns when that first temperature drop happens, so it's time to get your heating tune-up taken care of. Lucky for you, it's Happy Half Off Month at Hiller, and tune-ups are 50% off. This month, Hiller is making it easier than ever to tackle necessary home replacements by giving you 50% off select add-on items. And Hiller's work is backed by the Happy You'll Be Your Service is Free guarantee. That's right, and I know this again because I use Hiller at my home. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They offer convenient, quick online booking, so select the appointment time that works for you, and boom, get instant confirmation. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face truck today, and now I hope you were listening through that because if you're caller 5 at 615-737-1025. You're going to be getting a pair of tickets to see the Predators home opener Thursday, 1 week from tomorrow, October 12th, as they take on the Seattle Kraken at Bridgestone Arena. Again, that's the Preds home opener next Thursday, not tomorrow, but a week from Thursday at Bridgestone Arena. Good luck there. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Blue Raider football lives on 93.3 Classic Hits.
Coming up Wednesday, the Blue Raiders take on Jacksonville State in the blackout game at Floyd Stadium. Join Chip Walters and Big Joe Dubin starting at 6 o'clock.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits.
At Mercedes-Benz of Music City, a healthy and productive culture takes a day-to-day discipline. Here's Sam Cavett, General Manager, with a few thoughts.
Mercedes-Benz has its standard, and we have Dream Motor Group standards. They're definitely on the same level, but I feel like we challenge ourselves at least as much as Mercedes-Benz challenges us. It's a genuine motivation to take care of customers, and we see it in the customer reviews.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Country music singer-songwriter Kylie Morgan loves her ring from Genesis Diamonds.
I wanted something simple and with the stone that I loved, and that's exactly what he got. And then we dressed it up a little bit with the wedding bands, got a little firework action looking around it, and he definitely killed it when it came to choosing the ring.
Kylie's then-fiancé Jay did a lot of research, but chose Genesis because of the reputation, the quality, the personal service, and of course, the value.
Any man can walk through that door and know that, he's not going to be upsold or pressured to buy anything.
Kylie ended up writing a collection of songs about her bridal experience, including the viral sensation Bridesmaids.
I had at least 1,000 DMs asking from future brides where I got my ring, who I worked with because of the viral song. I think everyone kind of just looked at me as the person to ask.
And Kylie's advice to all those girls?
Go to Genesis. It's been a great experience, and they'll take care of you.
Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
This week's Nashville's best deal is 312 Pizza Company, serving the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. It's also a great spot to grab a beer and watch your favorite team on the big screen. 312 Pizza Company, 371 Monroe Street in Germantown. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals and get half off a $30 gift card. It's 312 Pizza Company, while supplies last.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
One is a legendary NFL wide receiver.
I gotta be prepared. I have to be ready.
One is a legendary Nashville voice.
You don't have to rely on carrying the ball 250 to 300 times.
And the other has been a legendary trash talker on the playground since the 4th grade.
Nobody is a Pro Bowler on day one of rookie minicamp.
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The Arizona Cardinals have traded the 33rd pick to the Tennessee Titans. With the 33rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Will Levis, quarterback, Kentucky.
And just like that, the Titans made Will Levis the quarterback of the future. But I was actually thinking today about how little fanfare there is for Will Levis, right? Bryce Young plays every game for Carolina, and so far, not off to a great start. Anthony Richardson plays every game for the Colts. He missed the one game with the concussion against the Ravens. But there have been some Superman plays from Richardson. There have been some rockets launched from Richardson. And then there's been some mistakes and some throwing, 8 yards over a guy's head from Anthony Richardson. And C.J. Stroud, so far, so good with the Texans. And I think the Texans, when it comes to coaching, I think the Texans may be, on the right path with Bobby Slowick as their offensive coordinator. But Then there's Levis. You don't hear from Levis. You don't hear about Levis. There's really nothing when it comes to Levis other than at 10:30 every Sunday morning, Will Levis is inactive. And Malik Willis is the backup. And I don't even know what that means. But I go back to the fact that the Titans traded up to draft Will Levis 33rd overall. A second-round pick and a third-round pick in next year's draft in order to be able to draft their quarterback of the future. When you take somebody with the 33rd pick, that guy is the quarterback of the future. So this morning I wake up, I turn on Robbie and Rex Road, and all the talk is about all these people out there that want to bench Tannehill, which I find this to be a very odd week to be talking about that, considering that Tannehill played great on Sunday, and I think so far Tannehill's been great this season. And then Paul Kaharski called it what it was, which is the crazy Titan fans that don't understand that Will Levis is the quarterback of the future simply cannot admit that Will Levis is the quarterback of the future for one very obvious reason.
They can straddle the fence and conceivably win the division and have gotten their quarterback of the future and their running back of the future. Now, a lot of people don't like the quarterback of the future
they already selected
because
the quarterback
he's not
of the future.
the UT guy. And you're going to have to get over that. You're going to have to get over that. He's not the quarterback you wanted from UT, and he happens to be from a school you don't like that's a rival of UT. You got to get over that.
I mean, he's dead on. Like, he's so true. You're so right. Like, that's what this is. Like, Titan fans, some of them that root for the Vols don't want to admit that Will Levis is the quarterback of the future because, and I think it's more than just UT, because I think there are a lot of Titan fans that don't root for UT that don't like Will Levis. But I think for the most part, the people that are the most mad are the Chad Withrows of the world that love Tennessee and that just cannot envision in their mind Will Levis ever being good. And I have no idea if Will Levis is going to make it, because I saw Will Levis take 30 snaps against the Chicago Bears, and I haven't seen Will Levis do anything since then. And so I don't know how Will Levis is doing on the practice field or how Will Levis is doing in the meeting rooms or anything like that. And we'll know in the offseason, because if the Titans have a good season and they don't re-sign Tannehill and they're not interested in getting anybody else, then that means they believe in Levis. If the Titans have a good season and re-sign Tannehill, that means they probably don't believe in Will Levis. You know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted Kyle Trask in the second round, and it's fine to sit him on the bench behind Tom Brady. And they had him as the third-string quarterback, and Blaine Gabbert was the backup. And then Blaine Gabbert left, and Brady retired. And so now they're going to give Kyle Trask a chance to win the job, but they're going to bring Baker Mayfield in. If you believe in him, you don't bring Baker Mayfield in. Washington, same scenario. They didn't bring anybody in to compete with Sam Howell. Atlanta, and they may be regretting this right now, didn't bring anybody in to compete with Desmond Ridder. But Will Levis, I'm just saying, Will Levis is the quarterback of the future. Gator Tim, by the way, texted in and said Anthony Richardson is completing 56% of his passes. How many inaccurate athletic passers have we seen in this league be good after 1 year until defensive coordinators have the offseason to adjust, stop the false hype? I told Gator Tim that Drew Brees completed 57% of his passes in 2003. And his response was, well, he wasn't inaccurate in college. And 62% was top 5 percentage in 2003. You said he's 56%. How many guys get better? Brees was 57%. Cameron says Levis can't even make the active roster. I don't know what that means. And I do wonder if the Titans are ever going to, be asked, like, why is Willis the backup and Levis is the third stringer? And if you ask it like that without any, trying to add anything to it. It's kind of a direct question. If they're going to not answer it, they have to plead the fifth on it. Like, they have to basically say, well, we don't want to talk about that, as opposed to, if you say, is it a comfort level? Is it you pad the question, and then they roll with the padding. Elliot says, the college to pro allegiances baffle me. I'm a huge Florida fan and a huge Titans fan, and I hope Anthony Richardson throws 6 interceptions on Sunday. Dude, I went to Louisville, and I hope Will Levis is the next great quarterback in the NFL. Could not give a rat's ass that he went to Kentucky. Do not care at all. Texter said, I wouldn't say he's the quarterback of the future. Last year, everyone said Malik was the future until they forced him in as a backup, and I see them drafting another quarterback for a third year in a row. If that happens, someone's getting fired. Someone's getting fired. Like, come on now. Jared versus Joe. We don't need to tease it. It'll probably get heated. Especially since Joe called me a liar yesterday. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
He knows Nashville sports.
And you've got Mike Vrabel in what feels like sort of a back against the wall game. They're at their best.
And he's not scared to tell it like it is.
They need to go on the road and win a game.
He is Outkick's Chad Withrow.
16 5-star players and 52 4-star players.
Withrow joins Stillman and Company every Friday at 5. Brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
They still have all of the talent.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hi, this is NFL alumni Tennessee president and former All-Pro NFL linebacker Al Smith. When I played, I worked hard to train my body, eat right, and practice to make sure I was prepared on game day. That's what vaccines and boosters do for your immune system to keep you healthy, and why I chose to get vaccinated and boosted. Talk to your doctor and get the information you need to make an informed choice. Go to vaccines.gov today. Gear up, Tennessee.
Green Trees Company Dispensary and 102.5 The Game want to send you to see Kiss at Bridgestone Arena October 23rd. Keep listening to Nashville's Best Sports Talk for your chance to win tickets to see Kiss on their End of the Road tour, courtesy of Green Trees Company Dispensary.
Now, your Game Center update.
The Tennessee Titans were back on the practice field today as they get ready for their first divisional game up in Indianapolis on Sunday. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel on the importance of an early season divisional game.
I think that there's a lot of familiarity between us and the Colts and their style of play, a lot of respect for them and what they do. So you have to play well in the division. And you have to win those games. Those are critical if you ultimately want to win and be in the playoffs and host playoff games. So we understand the importance of it and how critical it is at this early in the season going on the road.
Wide receiver Traylon Burks, linebacker Luke Gifford, and defensive lineman T.R. Tart all did not practice today. Wide receiver Kyle Phillips and offensive lineman Peter Skoronski were both listed as full participants. The team announced that they have promoted tight end Kevin Rader from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. Wide receiver Mason Kinsey has been signed back to the practice squad. Titans versus Colts is set for noon on Sunday. The Nashville Predators continue preseason action tomorrow night. Tune in tonight starting at 6 o'clock right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game for the Preds season preview show. And the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders have a midweek matchup as they host Jacksonville State tonight. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock on 93.3 Classic Hits. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Ross Chastain will be first to finish in the Ally 500 at Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air. Man, this is a win in the cup race.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff.
You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's Best Sports Talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. You know what that means. But first, apparently, according to Colts linebacker E.J. Speed, Asked if the Colts need to psych themselves up to play against the physical Titans, Speed said, quote, nah, they got to psych themselves up to play us. Derrick Henry knows what we bring to the table. He's played us plenty of times, so like I said, it'll be a good matchup for sure. Hey, Derrick Henry has to psych himself up to play us and our 29th ranked defense and our 26th ranked rushing defense. Okay. Caroline's here. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, how's it going?
Outstanding.
It's just Derrick, though. Nobody else. Only Derrick.
Derrick's got to hype himself. I hope Derrick's ready for the game on Sunday. That's something that I'm very concerned about. Joe is here with us. Called me a liar yesterday during the Rex rant.
You are a liar.
I did not lie.
Oh, God. Complete
so
joke.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, the morning show will tell you it's about penalties, really. We spent half the show telling you it wasn't. You're a complete fabricator.
Okay, so
fabricator.
I've heard you say that like 10 times. Did I say that? Did I say that the morning show was making penalty excuses?
Absolutely. We played it. Yes, you certainly did.
Okay, then I said it.
Yes.
All
yes.
right, with that,
yeah, exactly.
It's time to get to Jared versus Joe.
Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexrode. Now on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN
102.5 The Game.
Jared versus Joe is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville.
All right, this is a perfect first question to kick off with the alleged Vrabel apologist Joe Rexrode himself. Joe, you start. Is the heat off of Vrabel after the win on Sunday?
Okay, so I got to come right back with a question. What heat? The Jared heat? I have no idea what Jared's heat.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've heard plenty on your show, Titans fans wanting to fire Mike Vrabel after the Browns loss.
I wouldn't say plenty. I mean, there's always like any I really don't think it's plenty wanting to fire him. There's definitely some talk of like, when will he be on the hot seat, right? Like, and of course you have the random person here. I mean, we had some stuff today that was just off the wall completely.
Y'all had some crazy off the wall stuff. I woke up this morning, they talking about benching Tannehill and tanking. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Right.
Everybody wants to tank so bad. I don't get it.
Right. It's like that's a great complaint and conversation for the off season, and then the season starts, and then your team's playing football. So, are you going to watch your team play football, or are you going to continue to talk about what you wish happened in the previous off season? But as far as Vrabel, I guess this is sacred cowism per Jared, or this is being an apologist. I don't think he's realistically on a hot seat right now. I don't know this. I mean, Amy Adams-Strunk has done the unexpected, as Jared mentioned, and as we've also talked about. We've had all these conversations on the show, and then Jared took little snippets out from actual conversations and tried to make a fake narrative. But look, I don't think that Amy Adams-Strunk is going to sign up to pay another person a ton of money to not work for her. Because John Robinson right now, you guys notice he's not doing anything. He's good.
Yeah, but Vrabel's going to get a job.
Good.
Vrabel's going to get a job. Vrabel gets fired, he's going to get a job, and she's not going to have to pay him anymore.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true, but it might it might be a year. I mean, I don't about this specifically. When you're talking about the Heat, Caroline, the Heat's not there now. If they have a terrible year and you go into next year, then I think it's fair to start wondering. Okay, is he on a real hot seat? But as far as the fan hot seat, look, first of all, I understand the frustration people have had, and certainly after last week, you're talking about that makes it 9 of 10, and it was an atrocious performance. And I do think that there's something to, like, Vrabel and how he comes off publicly at times that maybe for some people, maybe it sort of exacerbates that feeling. But, look, it's week to week. I mean, if they stink it up on the road again, then I think we're going to have a lot of the same fan conversations next week. I don't think the real heat is honestly possible until we see what happens with this entire season.
So I have two thoughts. One is a thought on the Robbie and Rex Road program, and another thought is about Caroline's question. I'll answer the question.
It's your apology? Oh, it's your apology. Good. Yeah,
I'll answer the question first.
Hurry with that one.
I'll answer the question first. I don't think that Sunday's game did anything to the heat on Vrabel, and I'm actually shocked by it. Like, Titan fans were mad at Vrabel after the Cleveland Browns game. But normally, the first 6 years Vrabel's been the coach, if something happens that's bad, Vrabel has avoided the blame. And whenever they win a game, it's like, oh, my God, Vrabel, what a great coach. Like, every time they win a game, like they go to New England with all these injuries and they fumble the ball twice and they get spanked by the Patriots, and Mac Jones, who can't throws for 300 yards. And it's like, well, they were injured. And then they win a game with all those injured players. Oh, Vrabel. And this is the opposite, which is they got blown out by Cleveland. They looked terrible doing it, and people were furious with Vrabel. Then they smoked the Bengals with the exact same blowout score that they smoked the Browns by, and it's like nobody is saying good job, Vrabel, which I am stunned by. And I actually think Titan fans, for the most part, are in the right headspace where they kind of take the Bengals win with a grain of salt because Joe Burrow is clearly not right. And so it's hard to really feel like you blew out the Bengals. Plus, after losing 27-3 and then winning 27-3, it's like you kind of go back to even more than anything else. I think this is a big one this week for Vrabel. Like, I think this one, the Colts are not good. Now, they're not horrendous, but they're not good. And this is a game that if you don't screw up, you should win. And yet we all know the Titans are very capable of screwing up a game. And so if they go to Indy and they screw up, or like they leave guys one-on-one and Andre Dillard gets canned and all of a sudden your Tannehill sacked 8 times, or, they're letting guys run wide open down the field or busted coverages. I mean, Vrabel's going to get the business from the fans after the game. But as far as, Sunday's game affecting the Heat, I think Titan fans are glad Sunday happened. But I don't think that they really attribute that to Vrabel, and I really don't think Titan fans look at Sunday's game as a reflection of whether or not their team's good, which I think is the right way to think about this.
Yeah,
now,
okay, so a couple of quick things on that. First of all, and I heard this on Caroline's show today, and I heard Willie making this point, and I always struggle with this. It's like, so if you have like 10 to 12 really active or texters or whatever, how is that representing the fan base? Or is it just the really, really loud people who say something? And I struggle with that, because I know Titans fans in real life, too, who I haven't heard a peep about being, like any sort of Vrabel issue. Whether you want to – I agree sometimes that he gets – there's like this – the NFL, like, oh, Vrabel, what a genius, when they win a game or whatever. And I agree that maybe there's too much of that, but I don't sense that like the majority of this fan base is mad at Vrabel. I think a very loud minority of fans are loud. I think so. But again, I mean, I don't know that for sure. And as far as this week, I mean, I agree it's a big week for him. But again, I like this week to week Vrabel heat check thing to me is kind of pointless. I mean, well, let's see what they do. They could blow it this week. And in this league, then they go thump the Ravens in London. And that's kind of the Titans' way under him, too, which is they have these impressive wins, but then they have these befuddling losses. And you know what? That's on him, by the way, liar.
So to your point about the vocal minority versus the majority, I mean, what I'll say is, I don't know about you guys and your text lines, but my text line, there seems to be like, I don't want to say somewhat of an anti-Derrick Henry sentiment, but there seems to be like Derrick's slowing down. Derrick's not the same. Can't win with a running back. Don't want to see this, that, whatever it may be. Although on Caroline's show, it might be one of her co-hosts that, brings the sentiment the most. But
yeah, there's some truth to that.
But the stadium the other day, Henry. They throw the bomb to Burks against the Chargers, And the fans, normally you complete a pass down the field and you're not chanting for the running back, and the fans in the stadium are chanting for the running back. And I'm like, so maybe the stadium actually knows that the way the Titans win football games is by giving the ball to Derrick Henry, unlike the people that always complained in the text line about can't win with a running back, can't win with a running back. So maybe Joe is onto something there. By the way,
but also I can't read people's minds.
Derrick Henry.
If they don't text in, how am I supposed to know that those people exist?
So here's what happens. True. Somebody texts in and says something crazy, and then like 9 people text in immediately saying that person is nuts. And then that's how I feel like I'm able to judge how the majority of people feel, which is no scientific method, but it's probably the best we have. And I did want to get to my take on Robbie and Rex Road. So do you want to know? I am convinced I know how all the Vrabel heat talk started last week. And this is going to sound like it's a criticism, Joe, of the Robbie and Rex Road program, but it's not. It's actually a tip of the cap and an appreciation. I joke, and Caroline knows this for a fact, that they should rename the morning show The Text Line with Robbie and Joe, because you guys just read the text line. It's just like 3 hours of the text line and reacting to it. It's like the Paul Feinbaum show, which, again, that sounds like a criticism. It's not. I'm actually,
It's not true either, but that's no surprise. Keep going.
What? Caroline?
What? It's not 3 hours. It's not Paul Feinbaum.
Oh, it's text. So what happened was we played the cut on Tuesday at the end of the show of Floyd saying that if J.J. Watt dominates a game single-handedly, that a coach should be fired. And then we played that and talked about Myles Garrett, not saying Vrabel should be fired or something. Well, people hear that in the text line, and they just started saying, like, yeah, I don't think Vrabel should be fired. So Joe, as soon as they get started in the morning show, is like, I'm looking at the text line from Jared's show, and I guess they're talking about whether or not Vrabel should be fired. And that's what started all of it. And that, I think, is just so funny.
Your show starting some sort of coach being fired.
I didn't start any of it. Joe reading the text line in response to the end of our show in which we were making a joke. That is what got the whole thing started all week, which is amazing how it's like the consummate game of telephone.
There's probably some truth to that, but also then there's also complete untruths that you told repeatedly and still haven't apologized for. Interesting.
I can't believe that you guys act like you don't just read the text line for 3 hours. That is what that program is, and it's fine.
No, Jared,
it's a good show.
I'll show you our grid. Do not do that. All right, here we are back in the show. What's the text line got for us, guys?
That's what happens.
True?
And the fact that you guys do a good show is a credit.
Why? Can you find yourself? Can we get you to reality? Where are you? How far offshore are you from reality?
Hey, I love the Robbie and Rex Road program. In fact, I plan an hour of cardio around 8 o'clock on Wednesdays because I got to hear Joe and Paul and Robbie and the screaming that comes of the 8 o'clock hour on Wednesdays. We continue
Good
along.
Humble brag.
Speaking of screaming, we continue along with more Jared versus Joe next.
He breaks down every game.
The players are still going to be fine.
And knows the ins and outs of the two-tone blue.
They deal with their own position coaches.
He is ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Teron Davenport.
It's clear what he's doing.
TD joins every Monday at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast.
I think that's really cool how he could show both sides.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
O'Reilly. Protect your vehicle's engine with Syntec and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec Premium Full Synthetic Motor Oil is formulated for today's engines to dissipate heat and friction and reduce wear. Get 5 quarts of Syntec Full Synthetic and a MicroGuard Select filter for just $33.99. Limit supply. See store for details. Get Syntec only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
The Electronic Express 40th anniversary sale is going on now. Help us celebrate 40 years of service and save up to 40% throughout the entire store. This week, get a Hisense 65-inch 4K TV for only $399, or a stainless steel refrigerator only $499. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing on items like a top-load laundry pair, only $349 each, or an LG touchscreen laptop, just $799. Shop our 40th anniversary sale. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
DraftKings Sports and Social is bringing you the ultimate fan experience this football season with a 48-foot media wall, 22 TVs, mouth-watering game day eats, and cold beer. DraftKings Sports and Social, opening October 5th at Nashville Live on 2nd Avenue.
Jackie Robinson may have broken the color barrier, but he wasn't the first black baseball star. The players who came before him, including my grandpa, Norman Turkey Stearns, competed in a segregated league.
They were denied their rightful place in history.
We're going to uncover the stories of the Negro Leagues and the baseball greats you've never heard of. Reclaimed, the Forgotten League. Listen now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexrode. Now on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game.
Oh, my God. Caroline, you got to read the text that you just sent me.
Text it. Let me find the name. It doesn't matter. One texter texted in. I don't want to agree, but it does feel like Robbie Rexrode and Adam from Portland.
Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Not surprisingly, Joe, the text line has blown up about whether or not you guys read the text line. And I'm not trying to normally I'm trying to push Joe's buttons. I'm not trying to push Joe's buttons. I honestly I know good radio. The Robbie and Rexrode show is a good program. It's people listen to it. You guys know what the scoreboard says. You guys are doing a great job, but you guys love the text line. All right, Caroline, go.
All right,
We'll try to ignore maybe we'll need to bloviate one-on-one more. They'll just have our own, here, you have a segment, Robbie. Bloviate.
No, go back to the text line. It's working for you. It's like Derrick Henry. Don't stop giving him the ball.
PT, Nicholas Petit-Frere, was practicing at left tackle today. What should the Titans do with the offensive line now that PT's back in the mix? Jared, you go first.
Just me or Jared first?
So, the offensive line played great last week when they put 6 guys on the offensive line by having a tight end every time they tried to throw the ball. This is going to be a good one for Dillard to see, Dillard on the road, because Dillard was horrible on the road in the first game and horrible on the road in the third game. And I don't know why they're so much worse on the road. Yes, it's louder, silent counts, and those things do matter. That's not nothing. But I kind of want to see how that goes. I was told, I think Peter Skoronski is going to be a game-time decision on Sunday. So I don't know if he's going to play, but they're going to keep Skoronski at left guard. Then, Brewer and Brunskill are not moving, and they shouldn't move. I would keep Hubbard over Petit-Frere. I just don't think that Petit-Frere last year was very good. He was horrible in the preseason. He's had no contact in terms of hitting and popping in the last 6 weeks or however long it's been since the last preseason game. And Hubbard's doing a good job. Again, maybe Petit-Frere gets worked back in as the swing tackle. And then if Hubbard doesn't continue to do a good job, then you can switch him out. But as of right now, I think that for this week, I'd look at Petit-Frere as a swing tackle. And then after that, I would think about him at left tackle if Dillard continues to struggle before Hubbard. Hubbard has had his issues this year. He's not perfect, but it's with Hubbard, his limitations are consistent. Like the plays that he screws up are because he just doesn't have the talent to be able to do some of those things. With Dillard, it's almost like sometimes he'll go out there and make a great block, or he'll stand up a pass rusher, and then other times it's like he's got his head up his butt. So I would find that to be more frustrating than somebody who's consistent, just has deficiencies. But I guess I'd probably try to work PT back in as the swing tackle right now.
Yeah, I'm not starting him this week. He's the swing tackle, I think, to start out. I think that's the way to go. And I think ultimately he's probably going to be the right tackle. He's going to overtake Chris Hubbard. I'm not ruling out left tackle, because if Dillard's bad, then you got to do something at some point. But I actually agree with that assessment. Dillard, it's like Tim Kelly talked about last week. Dillard is very talented. That's why he went in the first round. Like, he has the measurables, the size, the feet to be good. And so then you see it. It's not like we haven't seen. If you go through a full game with Andre Dillard, you'll see more good than bad most games, but the bad has been really bad. And then you wonder, like, is he going to find consistency? Is he going to figure it out? But certainly he has the talent. Hubbard is a limited player who's gotten it out and is a pro and very impressive, and it's a good pickup for them to find a guy like this to be able to do what he's done. But a guy like Petit Frere is much more gifted than him and should be the right tackle. I think the ideal situation for the Titans is that Petit Frere ultimately reclaims that spot. Dillard figures it out, gets more consistent. Everything else stays the same, and they actually start growing into a decent offensive line.
I don't have any disagreement with that, other than the fact that I think them being a decent offensive line is still probably wishful thinking.
Well, let's see what Adam from Portland has to
say. By the way, somebody else texted in, and this is the truth, that said that it's more like Robbie and LD from McMinnville. And I love LD, but he texts he listens to the – LD might be the MVP of the radio station because he listens to every show starting at 6 until 6. Which I got to give some credit where credit's due.
Hey, by the way, I'm on the text line, so may as well just, do all I do on my show. Chris says, conversation must not be going Jared's way, starting it on personal shots at others again. That's a good point, Jared. I mean, are you going to should I brace myself? Are you making fun of like a relative I've lost or something? Like, let me know before you get to it.
Hey, if I feel the need to buzz you back at 98 upstairs because, sometimes you gotta push back a little bit, I will. I don't feel that need right now.
Okay.
Caroline, continue.
On to the next. Joe, you go first. How important is Kyle Phillips' return?
I think it could be important. Look, the way the Titans played last week, and the thing about last week is, by the way, I'll disagree with Jared on one thing. I agree defensively. You can't put this one in the trophy case because Joe Burrow was so limited. But I do think last week was a very good week for the offense against a good defense. That's a good defense with good personnel, a proven defense with a very good defensive coordinator. So that's where the win, to me, is something you can take forward. They played well, and you look at what they did without Burks, and of course they haven't had Phillips in forever. And you're like, hey, I mean, this could work if you block, and you have a good, Tim Kelly had a good day, Tannehill had a good day, Derrick Henry goes off, all that stuff. But I still think that this team with Kyle Phillips on the field, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, I think it's a nice thing to have to move the chains. That's what he is. He's a chain mover. But look, I mean, he played one full game in his NFL career. And all last camp, training camp can lie, but training camp in this way didn't lie last year. He was great in camp. He was cooking guys left and right. And in the first game, he was Ryan Tannehill's most trusted target. I mean, he was his most trusted target in that game. And I know it's one game, so it's not a lot to go on, but saw a lot of the same stuff this camp. Then he gets hurt again. It's hard to count on him too much or put too many eggs in that basket because who the heck knows if this guy could string together 3 freaking games in his career. I have no idea. He's slight. He might just be not able to hang in this league physically. But while he's playing, yeah, I think it's a nice addition to the offense. And if they could have him for this season or for most of this season, I think you're going to see him making some big-time third-down catches. I know it's a different offense, but Adam Humphries, another guy who struggled to stay healthy, when he was healthy, Tannehill loved him on third down, loved him. And fourth down, there were 2 fourth-down conversions in the AFC title game to Adam Humphries because they're not guarding that guy in short spaces, and that's the same kind of idea with Kyle Phillips.
So I'm going to tell you the answer to the importance of Kyle Phillips is 0. I am not here for Kyle Phillips. I think that Kyle Phillips is a training camp mirage, and I am not interested in investing in a guy who never stays healthy and really isn't all that good anyways. And the other reason why I'm not interested in investing in him is if this were 3 weeks ago, I may have a different opinion on this, but I'm not taking out the guys that make plays to put in the guys who I think can make plays, if that makes any sense. And I think that for Burks, the bigger question, because Burks has to be on the field, they got to figure out a way to work him back in when he gets healthy. But every time you play Kyle Phillips, if you put him out there, you are taking a rep away from Nick Westbrook-Akine or Chris Moore. Because we know in all the big passing situations, DeAndre is going to be on the field. But the thing about this league is, the guys
Jared just warned the Titans against taking NWI off the field. Better not take NWI off the field.
I can't take him off the field. Would you take him off the field right now?
I think you're okay if NWI isn't on the field for every snap.
No. I'm not taking him off the field.
Oh, how the turntables.
Yeah. So, here's the thing.
that?
Here's the thing about Westbrook-Akine and Moore. And I'm not a huge Westbrook-Akine fan at all. But you play good, they pay good. And he just keeps catching the ball. So why am I going to take – we've been sitting here for years. Since A.J. Brown's walked out the door. So 2. We've been here for 2 years just saying, why can't anybody on this team catch the ball? And right now, they've got a guy who is catching the ball and's got a roll. Like, he's not the deep threat. He's more of a chain mover like Kyle Phillips kind of thing where 3rd down and 4, Tannehill's going to look for NWI. Chris Moore's got a role where he's the deep ball guy. He's the Chris Sanders of this offense. And he's catching the ball, although I did not think that ball on the sidelines before the half was a catch. And I'm shocked that the replay booth didn't overturn it on Sunday, but that's a different discussion. And, DeAndre's the number 1, and he's making plays. And so with those 3 guys, why would I take them off the field? And when it comes to Westbrook-Akine and Moore, they're your best blocking wide receivers in the run game. And if normally when they come in the game, you're telling the defense, hey, defense, we're running. But now you don't have to do it because you can pass to them.
Kyle Phillips is never going to line up on the outside in a running down. Kyle Phillips is a 3rd down chain mover in the slot, and that's it. And in his one game, I understand people, he's been hurt. Okay, I understand. Like, this is why I would say you don't want to count on having him all year. You don't know if he's going to stay healthy. But in his one game, he had twice as many targets as anybody else. He had twice as many catches as anybody else, 66 yards. He had the 21-yarder that set up the winning field goal that Randy didn't hit. I'm just going off one. That's not a training camp mirage, Jared. That is training camp translating to actual football. Then he gets hurt. He's been hurt. So as a player, though, all the things you're talking about, there is still a place to add someone who can absolutely get open against man coverage and third medium every single time. There is absolutely a place for that player, and it doesn't have to diminish from the other guys, and it's certainly not going to have anything to do with what you're talking about run blocking receivers. He's not lining up on the outside on first, second down. But to weave him in, yes, it's a nice thing to have. And
so who are you taking off the field?
Well, you had different sets. Who's available? Is Burks available? Looks like Burks this week. Again, he doesn't even practice today. Like the idea that, you can't take NWI or Chris Moore ever off the field. Now, come on. Of course
right now, I'm not taking him off the field.
You have different. Okay. Well, you're not coaching.
Why would I take? We've been waiting for people that play receiver for the Titans to catch the ball and make plays with it when they catch it for forever. And now they've got 3 guys right now that are catching it and making plays with it when they catch it. Although DeAndre did drop that one ball that would have been a touchdown on Sunday. Yeah. Why am I taking off the guys that are catching the ball and making plays with it? That's crazy talk, Joe.
Right. So I think that the description for you that Kaharsi came up with is just so perfect and applies here. Prisoner of every moment. Every freaking moment imprisons you. It's amazing. Like this happens, and you're locked. Oh my God, I'm in the bars. I can't get out. I'm imprisoned by this moment. Every single moment. No way could you take these guys off the field after one game. Oh no, you couldn't possibly do that. I mean,
you want me to put a guy on the field because he had one good game a year and a half ago?
Okay, well, I guess we'll see if Kyle Phillips this week gets on the field in some situations. I bet he does, and I would agree with that decision.
I just hope Kyle Phillips catches the punt when they kick it in the air to him.
That's a big thing, too, no doubt. I mean, this is his last chance on that.
And not only that, the worst part about it is that Kearis Jackson was returning the punts well.
He is an electric punt returner.
What's that?
Because he is a plus punt returner. I mean, without question.
Sure. But I remember in Minnesota before he got hurt, TD talked about how he saw Phillips muff a punt. And I looked at TD like, no, he did not. But Kearis Jackson was doing a good job returning the punts. And I thought Mason Kinsey did a nice job returning the punts on Sunday. And so, if you take Kinsey out and you put him in and he muffs another punt, that probably is not a good look there. Caroline, who wins this wonderful edition of Jared versus Joe?
Very interesting day today, everybody. Great time had by all, I hope. Here's the thing with Kyle Phillips. Just stay healthy. Like, do that first. Prove to me that you can stay on the field. And look, I don't think that we nor this roster is in any place to say, don't come back. We don't need you. Because I think we're only a few months removed from saying who the heck is going to catch passes on this team. You have a first-round pick that can't stay healthy. Chris Moore and NWI look pretty good. So I'm in no place to say it means nothing that Kyle Phillips is coming back. Am I going to, throw a riot in the streets if he's not playing? Absolutely not.
Will you throw a riot in the streets if he plays too much?
Probably. Joe wins.
Thank you.
Joe wins over his Kyle Phillips take?
Well, your Kyle Phillips take was it so doesn't matter.
To dismiss anyone. Yeah. Like you're acting like all of a sudden this receiving, all good. We don't need any help. This is perfect.
Well, I saw Colton Dowell running on the field the other day, and I'm like, get him out of here. Get him off the field. Am I not allowed to say that I don't care about Colton?
Instead.
Am I allowed to say that I don't care about Colton Dowell, or is that bad too?
I think that's fine.
I think it's fine. NWI and Chris Moore, Pro Bowlers. Go with them. You're good.
You talk about the prisoner of the moment. I do have a response on the NWI Chris Moore front that I want to get to next. Guys, thank you all so much. And, Joe, I want you to know how much I mean when I say that your show is 3 hours of the text line, that I do truly mean that as a compliment.
Hey, Robbie and LD and I want an apology, and I'll expect that soon. Thank you.
Yep. There you go. Jared versus Joe, presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. So Paul does call me the prisoner of the moment. That's fine. But when it comes to this specific thing, with NWI and Chris Moore, I do feel the need to express exactly how I feel and how we should feel, and we'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 through the game.
All the big plays.
Rebound, try out in front, and Saros covers it up.
All the big stories.
Andrew Burnett reportedly hired as the next head coach of the Predators.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air.
Comparing goalies to running backs.
46-27 Vanderbilt.
Does this group of players need more?
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Predators fans, Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, Brewhouse Highway 100 in Bellevue, and Brewhouse West on Charlotte Avenue is your home for hockey action all season long. They are Predators approved and all the games are on, and they'll even give you the sound. Get awesome game day drink specials on Blue Note Bourbon and Black Abbey Beer. When you think hockey, think Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, Brewhouse Highway 100 in Bellevue, or Brewhouse West on Charlotte Avenue. Go Preds!
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right.
Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Introducing Gen Y Hitch, the ultimate towing solution for the modern adventurer. Whether you're hauling a boat, RV, or heavy cargo, Gen Y Hitch is your dependable companion. With its innovative design and cutting-edge technology, it delivers unrivaled stability and safety on the road. Crafted with precision engineering and built to last, Gen Y Hitch ensures a smooth and secure towing experience. Say goodbye to the hassle of traditional hitches and embrace the future of towing. You can find our full range of products and accessories at GenYHitch.com. Upgrade to Gen Y Hitch and tow with confidence. Your journey starts here.
Get the one and done you want for your dog's monthly protection. New NexGard Plus, a Foxalon moxidectin and pyrantel chewable tablets. Protects against fleas, ticks, heartworm disease, roundworms, and hookworms. All in one delicious beef-flavored soft chew. Use with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurologic disorders. Dogs should be tested for existing heartworm infection prior to starting a preventive. Ask your vet about new NexGard Plus chews.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robbie and Rex Road for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Y'all brought on all these people, but yet and still, the two guys that Ryan depends on and Ryan looks to is Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Chris Moore. Now, they're not perfect, but when you have a guy or two guys on your team that all they do is make plays, make the catches, and then go on the sideline, don't make a big fuss, don't ask for more balls, don't ask for headlines. All they do is do their job. These two guys have earned more playing time. More. Vrabel said this. All he want to do is put the guys out there that has earned the right to be out there. Well, Chris Moore and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine has earned the right to be out there more, even when Traylon comes back. And I like Traylon. I want Traylon to do well. I think he will. But right now, the two guys that are doing well that needs to be playing more is Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Chris Moore.
There you go. That was D. Mace talking about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Chris Moore. And Joe was talking about how I am not taking them off the field right now. I'm not taking him off the field for Burks if he's healthy. I'm not taking him off the field for Phillips if he's healthy. I'm not taking those two off the field. I'm not taking DeAndre off the field. And Joe goes, well, Paul's right. You're the prisoner of the moment. But I don't think it's prisoner of the moment. I think it's this. This is my feeling on Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Chris Moore. And I am not, and I have never been a big Nick Westbrook-Ikhine fan. I recognize him for what he is, which is a veteran minimum, fourth receiver. But I'm going to play the guys that produce. And it's easy for every coach to get up in front of the team at the start of training camp and to say, I don't care if you were drafted in the first round. I don't care if you were drafted in the last round. I don't care if you're an undrafted free agent. I don't care if you're I don't care. I'm going to play the guy who produces the most. And at wide receiver, since A.J. Brown walked out, nobody has really produced. Now, they signed DeAndre Hopkins, and we know that DeAndre is not going to be a finished product with his chemistry with Tannehill when he shows up. And I think even still, he and Tannehill are still kind of getting there. But DeAndre is making big plays for this football team. The stats haven't been crazy, but I think that DeAndre is going to keep doing his thing, and I think they're going to get more comfortable, and I think DeAndre is going to be – those 2 catches on the sidelines that he had against the Browns, that was vintage DeAndre. But other than that, I like Burks' talent, and I've said that he's got A.J. Brown's level of talent, but he's not producing like A.J. Brown, and he's dropped 3 big passes this season. So I don't want to put the guy who's dropping the ball in the games on the field to take out the guys that are making the big catches for me right now. And when it comes to Kyle Phillips, Joe's right. Kyle Phillips had a good training camp last year and had a good game against the Giants, and then he broke his collarbone or whatever it was. And I hate that for him. And then he showed up and he got hurt in training camp against the Vikings. And I hate that for him. But I'm not taking him off the field. I'm not putting him on the field. I'm not taking snaps away from Nick Westbrook-Akine, who I know Tannehill trusts on 3rd down right now, who I know will go over the middle, who I know can run away from defenders sometimes. I thought that throw, the touchdown that Tannehill had on Sunday to Nick Westbrook-Akine, where 3 rushers were coming right after Tannehill, and he just lofted the ball right to NWI, and NWI caught it and cut up and took on the defender into the end zone. That is, I trust you, so I'm going to put this ball in your vicinity. I'm going to take a pop, but I trust you to make the play. And that is the organic chemistry that develops between a quarterback and a wide receiver that have spent copious amounts of time together. And he's the only guy that Tannehill really has that with. Listen to Tannehill talk about NWI. This was Tannehill. Joe asked a great question today about Tannehill's trust level in Nick Westbrook-Akine. Ian, if you could, this is what Tannehill had to say about NWI.
Ryan, what do you see from Nick, and where's your trust level with him?
Which one?
Westbrook-Akine.
Yeah, Nick's made some big plays for us. Obviously he's been so consistent over his 3 years here. I guess going on 4 now with us. Just consistent day in and day out. We can move him all over. He does the dirty work for us. He can make plays down the field. You see him finish a tough run on the touchdown, a collision right at the goal line. So it's a guy I trust, and we trust as an offense because he does so much for us.
Tannehill loves the guy. So why would I take him out of the game? And, again, they had one good game, and now you want to, right. And then if they go back to not being good, then I'll put other guys on the field. But let's let them go back to not being good before we pass up on something where clearly he's got some chemistry with NWI. Clearly he's building something with DeAndre. And Chris Moore gives you something that you have not had since Khalif Raymond walked out of here, which is the deep ball. That's Chris Moore. That's his specialty. Chris Moore for this team is never going to catch 8 balls in a game. But that's not his job. His job is to catch the 1 or 2 down the field that keeps the defense honest. And he's doing it. And so would it be nice if Treylon Burks realizes that potential and plays like a superstar? Hell yeah, it would. Would it be nice if Kyle Phillips becomes the, Julian Edelman of this football team? Sure. But I'm not going to take the guys that are finally producing out of the game in order to see if those guys can do that. That's the point I'm making. And it's for right now. And again, if those guys go back to being average, then let's try something else. But for right now, those guys have earned the opportunity. And you may say, like Joe, Jared's prisoner of the moment here. D. Mace is the best wide receiver in the history of the Titans. And D. Mace was a guy who at one point in time, the coaching staff went to the general manager. And I think you guys know my sourcing on this is probably pretty good. And they asked the general manager, can we count Derrick Mason as a returner and not a receiver? And he said, no, Derrick's a receiver. And so even though Kevin Dyson was a first-round pick and got more reps at the beginning. And even though Yancey Thigpen was a big free agent signing and Carl Pickens was a big free agent signing, when all those guys got hurt, Derrick Mason went out there and ended up in the Pro Bowl. And they just kept throwing it to him and throwing it to him and throwing it to him. So if the guys are going to play well, I'm going to throw them the ball, and I'm going to keep them on the field. To me, that's not prisoner of the moment. That's called you play good, they pay good. 615-737-1025, Dustin says, last week was the most mojo I've seen in the passing game in years. Even when the Titans had A.J. Brown, it's an all-over-the-field mojo, not just Brown. But is that Cincinnati's that bad? I don't know. Matthew Stafford threw a bunch to Puka Nacua, but it wasn't like the Rams, put a hurt on Cincinnati the week before. Texter said, Kyle should get the Khalif Raymond role at most right now. Do not take snaps from NWI. That comes from Logan. I mean, I would say this. I think Chris Moore has the NWI deep ball role here on the program. By the way, I just want to clear something up because Charlie texted in and he said, you know what? We'll do this on the other side. Because I want everybody to know my feelings, even though I tried to lay this out there. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, and Paul did say something that made me laugh out loud today, which I want to play. We'll do that. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Vanderbilt football lives here.
This Saturday, it's Vanderbilt and Florida from Gainesville. Kickoff at 3 p.m. Coverage starts at 1:30.
Your home for the Commodores is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is it. The legendary live band Fish returns to the road this fall. Fish. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Bridgestone Arena. On sale now at livenation.com.
Whether you drink it neat, in a cocktail, or like our boys at Bridgestone, on ice, Blue Note Bourbon hits all the right notes. From the ever-popular Blue Note Juke Joint to our fabled Blue Note Crossroads. It doesn't matter if you're watching the Preds at a bar or just hanging at home. Our double gold medal winning, hand-bottled, straight bourbon whiskey always sounds like a good time is about to be had. Blue Note Bourbon. Take note. Sip responsibly.
Hey, are you seeking relief? Maybe you just want to enhance your day or night. Did you know there are legal THC products available right here in Tennessee? Yeah, really. You can have legal THC products shipped directly to the comfort of your home. Yes, comfort in cannabis is only a website away. Visit greentreescompany.com. That's Green Trees with a Z, and change your life today.
This week's Nashville's best deal is 312 Pizza Company, serving the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. It's also a great spot to grab a beer and watch your favorite team on the big screen. 312 Pizza Company, 371 Monroe Street in Germantown. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals and get half off a $30 gift card. It's 312 Pizza Company, while supplies last.
Insightful discussion.
When we talk about the person that these players are.
3 goals scored in the first 5 minutes.
He wants to be the starter, day one.
Mixed with spirited debate.
Okay, Derrick, let's Professor Derrick.
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derrick Mason.
We got the whole thing covered. We got it all covered. Here.
Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company. So I want to clear this up. Charlie texted into the text line and said, Jared, I love you, but these personal shots make me cringe. Let's not pretend that you spend 4 hours talking in circles about the same subjects. This is in reference to the fact that I said that Robbie and Joe is 3 hours of Robbie and Joe on the text line. First of all, I said that as a compliment to Robbie and Joe. Like, the fact that Robbie and Joe can have as entertaining of a program as they did. It's a good radio show. Like, I know sports radio around the country, and they have it. That is a good show. Like, as much as I criticize it, I listen to it every day, and half the time it triggers me, and it gives me a bunch of material for us to talk about because I get worked up about something I heard on that show. But it's a good show. But that's, like, their strength. So I hope people say that's like a personal shot. Ian, I meant that as a compliment.
Well, yeah, I guess I could see how that's a compliment. But, some people aren't always inside baseball and don't quite always get all the lingo and stuff. So it's not always super clear to everybody.
Well, it's like the texter that said, let's not pretend that you don't spend 4 hours talking in circles about the same subject. Of course that's what we do. Like, that's the job. The person who's listening at 5:30, probably, you're in the car right now at 5:52, you probably weren't listening at 2:50. And if you were, we love you. And even if you weren't, we still love you. But, like, that's the gig. And I think Robbie and Joe do a great job. But, again, what led to the whole Vrabel Heat thing was that we played a cut at the end of the show of Floyd talking about how if J.J. Watt dominates a game, someone ought to be fired because they should have a game plan in there to stop that. And we did that after Myles Garrett went crazy. And then Joe started the next morning saying to Robbie, I just looked at the text line, and apparently Jared was talking about firing Vrabel? And that's what led to the entire, Mike Vrabel week of heat was that. And that's okay. Now, I was listening this morning on the to Paul because 8 o'clock on Wednesdays with Joe, Paul, and Robbie is like Jared addicting pain radio. Some people will be like, oh, I never listen to that. They listen all the time. I listen all the time and just admit it. And I cannot miss the hour that Paul Kaharski is on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. And so I was listening, and at the end, Joe's still mad about the mashup that we had of all the cuts of them saying good things about Vrabel and is convinced that, it was selective editing. And they brought it up to Paul, and here's what PK said.
I'm going to send you some audio of Stilly trying to claim that the three of us are doing sacred cowism with Vrabel. You're going to enjoy
selective
this.
editing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well,
here's the thing about us. To trap us in something like that, you need to do selective editing. And to make Jared look foolish, you just need to press play.
I was literally on a walk this morning. I heard that, and I laughed out loud. I heard that, and I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. And so it's okay. People in here talking about, your coworkers and you. And let me say this. I think I've got a pretty good relationship with everybody that I work with. And the Jared versus Joe, it's one of the most popular things on our station because it's so authentic. And we love pushing each other's buttons. And so I just want you to know that tomorrow at 6 a.m., I'll be asleep. But whenever it is that I wake up, I'll probably tune into the Robbie and Rexroad program, and I'll probably get triggered by something that they say. And then I'll probably yell about it tomorrow. Which, by the way, we will be live tomorrow at the grand opening of the DraftKings Sports and Social, live downtown on 2nd Avenue tomorrow from 2 to 6. And again, that's their grand opening, just like the one out here in Green Hills. It's wonderful. This one's going to be fabulous. We hope you swing on by tomorrow. Again, that is the the DraftKings Sports and Social downtown Nashville. Come on out and see us tomorrow. Preds season preview show with the voice of the Predators, Pete Weber, Hal Gill, and Max Hers is coming your way next. Stillman and Company will see you all tomorrow at 2.